Welcome to DAX Machina. Join us as we explore the mysteries of this world. Cryptids, monsters, macabre tales, and horror stories abound. Could they be true? Are monsters real?
Good evening, folks, and thank you for joining us on another edition of DAX Machina. Joining me in the studio tonight is Robbie Rip Rains with that amazing cowboy hat, and Carry Pocket Doc Davis from Dark Angel Medical, my pint-sized brother from another mother. Hey, how you boys doing tonight?
I'm doing good. How y'all are?
Wyatt, I am rolling.
There we go. He said the line. He said the line.
He said the line.
Well, you know, boys, this is one I'm kind of excited about. I've actually been down to Boggy Creek, spent a little time down there. Really an interesting place. And you've got to say, this is one of the first Bigfoot movies first decent Bigfoot movies. There were some, like, The Abominable Snowman and stuff that came out in the 50s that were just cheesy as all get out. But this is one of those first Bigfoot movies that was really like the old... considered the drive-in movie theater movies. Even though it was based on a true story, it was a little schlocky because it was an independent film, but just an absolutely fantastic movie. And now there are several others.
I ain't never seen it.
You've never seen Legend of Boggy Creek? Oh my God!
Doc.
Standing under a rock. I mean, living under a rock.
And my two brothers, they're on tonight, and they saw it, and my middle brother Keith was like, "Man, it scared the piss out of me." He said,
There's a scene where this thing reaches through the window while a guy's sitting on the toilet.
That's the one he was talking about.
He sure cleared any bowel obstructions he had.
I'm sure.
Papa Bear says, "Somebody get that man a copy now."
It's on YouTube.
He almost said it best. What the hell is wrong with you?
Sorry, man. Sorry.
Yeah, Richard Cox says Boggy Creek is the gold standard.
It is on YouTube. Because when we started talking about doing this, I watched it again the other day just so it was fresh in my mind. Which I probably wouldn't have had to, but I watched it again just so it was fresh in my mind.
David Lester says, "Wow, love DA's shirt. Wonder if it comes with batteries." No, I like that. I like to have a shirt that people can hear me coming from a block away.
Man, if that thing had batteries, we'd all be having seizures on here, man. Good Lord.
Bigfoot on a surfboard. Who doesn't want that?
Oof.
He's carrying one there, but I think if I stand up, you can see him catching the waves. There he is. Bigfoot hanging 10.
That's a big 10.
Yeah, it is.
It's got to be a big surfboard, too. Boys, we got a full house tonight. We're just getting started. Yeah. We're 3 minutes in. And, 93 people. We are rolling.
Man, we got some folks from Picayune, Mississippi up in here. That's where my mama was born. Yeah.
Nice. Well, folks, before we get started, I want to say, kind of keep William Nighthawk in your thoughts and prayers. He's not feeling very well. Our Miss Lene is still on the healing process, so keep her in your prayers as well. And Pat Kennedy, who's in the audience tonight, she's having some health issues as well. So appreciate if you all would keep them in your thoughts and prayers. I've got my second round of shots coming up in just over a week. February 2nd, I get the next series of 3 in the lower spine. And then they'll schedule the third round. And if the third round goes as planned, that should be really, really big for me for a while. Lee says he's in Charleston, South Carolina. It's raining.
Yep.
It's snowy here, but it's stopped snowing.
Yes. I think it's been raining everywhere in South Carolina today because everywhere I've went in South Carolina it's been raining.
It's 13 degrees outside here. So awesome.
It's 32 here. Had to check my phone. So Doc has not seen Legend of Boggy Creek.
I have not. I'm sorry to let y'all down.
Oh, Doc, you've got to watch that. Now the sequels aren't quite as good. Return to Boggy Creek was okay. Okay. Let's see. I'm trying to remember the name of all of them. Hold on a second. I've got a list of them. So bear with me while I hunt it up.
The first one was the only one that was really truly a documentary type movie. Anyway, the second,
right,
and so on was more of a B movie.
Yeah. Let's see here. Okay, here we go. The first one is Legend of Boggy Creek. Came out in 1972. And was actually pretty much shot down there. Running around that area. Talked to a lot of the people that were actually involved in the first incident were featured in the movie. The second one came out in 1977. It was called Return to Boggy Creek. Like you said, it was a made up story. It was billed as a G-rated adventure for the entire family. So I think we can pretty much guarantee that one's not scary. Boggy Creek 2 came out in 1985. And it was pretty good. I remember I worked at the movie theater when that one came out. I was a projectionist, and that one was pretty creepy. It had its moments. Well, again, a little cheesy. I mean, none of these were big budget productions. Then there was one called Boggy Creek: The Legend Is True that came out in 2011, and I think we can pretty much figure, that kind of movie because the movie poster has this blurry creature at the top and then a group of what looks like teenagers, a couple of them in bikinis on the lower half. So I think we know what that is. That's it. That's your typical 80s slasher film, I think. The most recent one came out. Oh, no, there was Legacy of Boggy Creek that came out in 2013. And then the Boggy Creek Monster came out in 2016. So as far as I know, I don't think there's any more planned. But, they have a big festival down there every year. And there's a lot goes on down there for being no bigger than it is.
Yeah, it's a really small town.
It is. But the monster mark there in town is really cool. I think I've got some pictures of when I was there. Let me scroll up and see if I can find them. Yeah, there's me by one of the displays. Here's some of the stuff that they've got there. Why there's a pufferfish there, I have no idea.
I think we asked that last time that you popped that picture up.
Here's some of the displays, some of the sketches people have done. There's some of the tracks that have been cast there. There's another one of the little Bigfoot displays. There's me out in front of the Monster Mart, standing next to the Bigfoot. Here's anybody that's interested. That's, I know it's taken at an odd angle, but that's the actual address to the Monster Mart. They have all kinds of really cool merchandise. And Denny, I'd met Denny, but I didn't get to talk to Brenda. But Denny was a super nice guy. Is convinced that we're cousins, since both our last name is Roberts. Well, he was saying that some of his family came from the Valdosta, Georgia area, and part of my family did as well.
That's it. Y'all are cousins.
Might be.
He said so. As far as he was concerned, we're cousins, just long lost cousins. I can't imagine Roberts is a real common name down there.
So we got to get Doc up to speed on this, DA.
Definitely.
Because I saw this movie after I had my encounter. Because
I bet it scared the crap out of you.
Oh yeah, because especially the scenes where they're looking out the window and see it, that really brought it back. Because I saw it probably 84, 85, somewhere around there, and I just had my encounter in 81-ish. So yeah, it was pretty fresh in my mind still. So when that thing came on TV and I saw it, I was like, but it kind of helped me know that I wasn't crazy, because I wasn't the only one that had seen something like this. So that movie kind of set me on my path to being interested in it, because at that point I don't think maybe I had seen the In Search of prior to that. I don't know. I don't remember, other than maybe the $6 Million Man. I think that's the only thing other than In Search of that you really had anything.
$6 Million Man.
Yeah, when he fought Andre the Giant dressed up as the cyborg Bigfoot.
Yep.
But prior to that, there really wasn't much on it. Like you said, I mean, that was the first. Not it was a big. Not that it was a big movie budget, but it was, at the time was the biggest thing around as far as Bigfoot goes.
Well, I always considered the Spanish Moss Murders episode of The Night Stalker to be technically a Bigfoot. The Spanish Moss Monster that is Paramalfe, Paramalfe, which has been reported in Cajun legends, is this swamp creature. It's reported to be covered in either Spanish moss or something resembling Spanish moss, and I can see a swamp dwelling primate looking, like a skunk ape. Its fur would be matted from being out in the swamps. It probably would have Spanish moss sticking to it, because I don't know if you've ever been down on them cypress swamps, but that Spanish moss is everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very likely that the legend of Paramalfe might actually stem from Bigfoot, because it was said that if you were a child and you didn't behave, the Paramalfe would get you. So I've always considered that Kolchak episode really to be kind of a Bigfoot episode.
So, Doc, the basics of Boggy Creek, Fouke, Arkansas, is nestled right in between Texarkana and Shreveport, Louisiana, PA. It's right there, in Miller County, and is the only county in the state that is completely cut off from the rest of the state by a creek, which Boggy Creek.
Yeah.
And this creature has been stalking around for years and years.
The first recorded sighting in that area was in 1908 by a girl named Willie Smith.
Yep. And they mentioned it several times in the movie. He follows the water, always follows the water, or he follows the creek. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the sightings have been on that creek and on the houses that outlie that creek bank and that area. So that's why I got the name. It got several names, but most notably is the creature from Boggy Creek, or the Boggy Creek Monster. It's also called the Fouke Monster, but that's where the title of the movie came from, is Boggy Creek. So.
Tombstone said, "Didn't MacGyver have a Bigfoot episode?" Yes, he did. It was a really good one.
Yeah, but I was a little bit older by the time MacGyver came out, so.
Sorry, I'm answering the question real quick. Anyway, what was I going to say? That area, I can tell you from driving down in there. After I spoke with Denny, he was telling me the places to go, and he said if I want to plan an expedition to come down there, he knows the guy to talk to about renting a cabin right there on that creek. He said the cabin will sleep like a dozen people, and you literally walk out on the back deck and you're looking out over the creek. So that, to me, that would be the perfect place to go. I would like to get an expedition together of like-minded folks, get you guys and a few others, and go down there. Of course, we're going to go significantly strapped, shall we say? But it's a beautiful area. But some of the areas that he said that there had been recent sightings, it was so wet down there, I didn't dare risk taking my little SUV in there. Might still be stuck down there.
One of the things that I think scared me the most about that movie is, you remember I told you about the back pasture behind my great-grandfather's house, mm-hmm. Right, DA? Okay, that scene where that little boy is running through the big pasture, and he jumps over the fence, and he runs up to that little house that he lives in. My great-grandfather had a house. He had an old sharecropper that stayed in the house back there, John Hamp. But that field, that barbed wire fence with the fence posts, the wooden fence posts, was just basically trees that they split to make split rail logs. That whole area, even that house, looked almost identical to where that house was in that back pasture. So watching that kid run through that pasture, or that when he stops, that thing starts yelling. With the exception of hearing that scream, I have done the exact same thing that kid was doing in that movie. So after my encounter and then seeing that movie, I guess it just tied a whole big string of memories together, because I was like, I've been in the exact same area that they're showing right here, just in a different state. So is this thing living behind my great grandpa's house? And that's in my kid brain. That's what I'm thinking, because that area looked exactly like that whole back pasture he had with the little swamp area and the creek and that big flat field area where the cows stayed. I mean, it was a chilling experience to watch that video or watch that movie after I had that.
Well, considering what you were saying about your grandfather moving the cattle up every night to the closer pasture, and the bear that they had saw down there, you may very well have had it back there, especially considering your sighting was right there at that. So you might have had what was the old phrase, a booger in the woods?
Mm-hmm.
You might have had a booger in the woods there.
Yeah. My great grandmother said that all the time. Don't go in them woods, and boogers are going to get you. Or she said, if you go in the woods, you stay close to the house because them boogers will get you.
Mm-hmm.
Nope.
Toxic. Not happening.
I'll be all right.
Well, he just a Bigfoot, a female Bigfoot would just pick you up, put her under her arm, carry you away like a purse dog.
Just be a snack, man. I'd be in a moose bush for a Bigfoot.
But you think about it, the three of us are around the same age. When we were kids, that's all. Especially, I lived out in the country. I know you lived out in the country, Doc. So did you, DA.
Yeah.
That's what you did. You went out and played in the woods.
Yeah, my wife and I were actually talking about that the other night.
Fished and hunted.
Yeah, Angie and I were talking about that. She said, no cell phones, no nothing. Just, hey, Mama, I'll be back later, and it wasn't until you heard your name getting hollered when the sun was going down, when the gopher lights come on,
Mm-hmm.
when the gopher lights come on, it's time to go home, because that's when the monsters come out.
Yep, them old yellow light bulbs.
Yeah,
that was what was on that porch that night. I had my encounter, because my great grandparents, that's what they had on the front porch, was them old yellow light bulbs.
I mean,
yellow bug lights.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we grew up out in the woods, gallivanting around all the time on our, bicycles and dirt bikes and stuff like that. And hell, we'd be gone all day,
Yep.
So who knows? But yeah, I mean, there's no telling what we were getting watched by.
Yeah.
Ignorance is bliss.
How many times you been out someplace, hunting, fishing, even hiking, and just had that feeling you were being watched? I mean,
yeah,
it's happened to me probably 1,000 times. I mean, most of the times you just play it off, and you don't have. How many times have any of us had that feeling in a remote area? People that don't believe in Bigfoot have had that. I just got a feeling like somebody's watching me, and they dismiss it as being, maybe it's an animal or another person that's watching me. But how many times could that have been a Bigfoot, and you just never knew?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Miss Lenny wants to know what gopher lights are.
It's like those big old outdoor lights that come on at nighttime. It's like a street light. My daddy always called them gopher lights. I don't know why. It's just, that's just.
We had them here. There were those old yellow sodium lights. They had a sensor. Had a sensor on top. It'd come on. It'd just kind of fade on as it got dark.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had those. Had one of those in our backyard, by the barn.
You hear them buzzing.
Yep.
Yep.
They buzzed for like the first hour they were on.
Dead of summer, they'd have a freaking swarm of bugs flying around.
Mm-hmm. And the bats would be dive bombing them bugs around there. So.
Oh yeah, bat feeders.
Yeah, Richard Cox,
as we call them, booger lights.
Booger lights. Yeah.
But anyway, Robbie, go ahead, go on more about Boggy Creek. It's kind of cool that Doc hasn't seen it, because we're not just explaining it for the crowd, but we're explaining it for Doc's benefit as well.
I'm gonna have to watch it now. I'm gonna have to watch.
You gotta.
Yeah.
It's a requirement.
The story opens up as being there, and was the guy that was narrating, was he really?
I think so. I think he was one of the Crabtrees.
So he's narrating it, and it
The
goes back.
Crabtrees still live down there. Danny told
yeah.
me when we came down there, he'd introduced us to the
Smokey
remaining members of the Crabtree family.
Smokey hadn't been dead too long though, has he? Maybe like early 2000s, maybe.
Yeah, something like that. But his descendants are still there.
Yeah. So starts out with the narration, and it's a flashback with a kid running through the woods, or running through the field, jumping over a little barbed wire fence, going down to just one of them old country stores, which we had one just right down the road from here too. You know, the kind where old men sit around and drink coffee, play checkers, and talk every morning. He goes in just in a panic and says, talking to whoever the landowner was, like him and his mom and siblings lived in or rented the house from him. He says, Mr. Smith, whatever the guy's name was, Mama said, come down there. There's that wild man's back down in the woods again. And he says, boy, you go back and tell your mama there ain't no wild man living in the woods. I'll be down there and check on things tomorrow. And the boy runs off. He says, that's the third time this week that woman sent that little boy up here to find me, saying there's a old wild hairy man down there in my woods. He said, maybe I better go down there and check on it. And it shows him running back, and it's getting on up into dusk, and he stops after he jumps over the fence. He kind of stops in the field, and you hear this vocalization, and it will raise the hairs on your arm.
That it will,
especially when you a youngin' and you just had this kind of confrontation. And then he runs back in the house, but then it goes into it. It goes into all the witness details. There's the Ford, and what was the other family's name?
Crabtree.
No, the two couples that lived in the house.
Oh,
Ford
God.
and
You would ask me that.
Yeah, I know.
Chevy.
Anyway, yeah, Chevy. Anyway, these two couples move into this house, rent this house, and the two guys are working for a cattle farm. That's really the big business down there was cattle farms. So they come in, they're working for that, and they're each married and got young kids. They start having, something come up on the porch, try to jiggle the door handle. Guys work at night or work late night. I'm assuming second shift at time because they get home later in the night. Well, then one of the guy's brother and a younger cousin comes to visit. They go fishing down the creek. They see a big footprint. Well, later on at night, it comes back again. And this is the scene we were talking about where the guy's on the toilet and the hand reaches through and grabs him while he's doing number two and helps him finish number two.
I would say there was no blockages present in that one,
brother. I would have achieved liftoff. That's
Taylor.
Sure.
Taylor was the last name of the others.
Yes.
Bobby Ford, Don Ford, Elizabeth Ford, and Charles Taylor.
Yes. Okay. And Bobby Ford is the younger brother, the one that actually got attacked. And
ironically, Bob Ford has got shot. Jesse James.
Different one, but same name.
Different same name. But sorry, just had to throw that out there.
Yeah. They take him after he gets attacked. This is like they portray it as in it happening like maybe, or at least that part happened in one night. I don't know if it actually happened in one night or over. For the movie purposes, they condense it into this pretty much happened in one night. So while they're out there trying to find it or shooting at it or whatever, Bobby Ford turns to go back to the house for whatever reason, and he runs right into it. It attacks him, kind of throws him around a little bit, throws him through the front door, or he runs through the front door, whatever. It doesn't really specify. Anyway, he comes crashing through the front door, and they end up taking him to the hospital because he's in mild shock, and I think he had a concussion too. But, all that's documented. That really happened, and I think it was put down to strange animal attacks, how they listed it.
Yeah.
So it goes through and the name DA keeps talking about the Crabtrees. That's probably the most famous family from around there. You had Travis, which was probably during the movie was probably one of the most famous ones because he's the one that had the song made about him in the movie.
Travis Crabtree, yeah.
Yeah, and Smokey has probably been the one that's longevity wise has been the most popular. He wrote what 3 books, I think, about
I think
it.
so. Lyle Blackburn's written several books on the area as well.
And Small Town Monsters, they're special on Boggy Creek. Actually, I think they actually interviewed Smokey because it was before he died when they made it, I think.
Small Town Monsters does an amazing job.
Yes,
I mean,
very
for
good.
just being a small production unit, they turn out some really good quality documentaries.
Yeah, and the one on the Boggy Creek Monster is really good. I mean,
I need to watch that one again. It's been a while since I watched it.
I watched it again too when I knew we were going to do this. So because I knew that had a lot of good information. And it goes in, it kind of breaks down a lot of the stories from the movie a little bit further than the movie does, because the movie is such a broad stroke of everything.
Yes.
And Small Town Monsters really kind of focuses in on a few of those stories and a few others. They interview some other people that are descendants of some of the Crabtrees, and they talk about the Fords and the Taylors. They actually interview your buddy Denny. He's in that one.
Mm-hmm.
And the Phillips, the constable that was with the one that went out there that night to the Ford and the Taylor's house, he was actually with them. So they interview him. So you get a different perspective on this than you do on the movie, but it's the same kind of stories, but just a different perspective that you don't get in the movie.
Yeah. Well, that incident with the Fords and Taylor happened in 1971. It actually mentions on their website. I just posted the website link in the chat. It's foukemonster.net. Really good website, but it's got a really good breakdown of all the sightings over the years. And this one says 1971, Bobby Ford, Don Ford, Elizabeth Ford, and Charles Taylor claimed to have seen a 7-foot-tall hairy creature several times during the night as it approached their rental house and stuck a hand through the window. The investigators later found evidence of scratches on the house and 3-toed tracks in the yard.
So I guess it was that one night thing.
Well, to that family, yes.
Yeah.
But apparently it had been coming around for a bit. They just didn't know what it was.
Now, one of the things I've never been able to find anything else on that where they said they couldn't in in Small Town Monsters, the Cersei's, that's the one with the cat. Mm-hmm. They found the cat dead the next morning, and not a mark on it. Apparently, it just something scared it to death, and they Small Town Monsters tried to find anybody, but they had just kind of disappeared off the map, so they could never find them to talk to them any further about their sightings.
Denny told me the house where that happened, where the creature reached through the window, was pretty much fallen in on itself. He said it's not there anymore. I want to say thank you to Pat Murphy for the super chat. Yeah, the Fords and Taylors. Yeah, that house is not there anymore.
Yeah. And then Mary Beth, cover that window. The baby's cold. That's right. Watching that, I was always like, why don't her lazy butt get up and she's 3 feet from the window? Her sister's in there studying and she's making her get up and come in there and cover the window. That was my thought about it.
Apparently 1971 was a big year for sightings down there. And these are all short, little entries, but I'm going to read all of the ones from just 1971. First one says a trail of 3-toed tracks are discovered in Willie Smith's soybean field. The trackway appeared to have been made by a bipedal creature walking upright. Then it says several women and children report seeing ape-like creature in the area. Women had come to the area to view the tracks in the soybean field. Next says 2 local residents witness a creature fitting the monster's general description, slouch, quote unquote slouch, across a gravel road in front of their car early one morning, and that was featured in the Texarkana Gazette. And it says 2 men from Kansas report seeing a strange 2-legged animal standing on the side of the road. I guess he was driving by on the highway. The next one says woman sees 6-foot-tall hairy creature walking through the woods near Willie Smith's soybean field during the late evening hours. Next one says child reports seeing a monster in the woods near his house. Same location as previous report. And it says 3 people see a tall, hairy creature with red eyes during the evening hours. It appeared to be squatting on an embankment at the edge of the woods across the street from their home. Then, of course, the one I read about Bobby, the Ford family in Taylor. And then the next one says 3 well-respected local residents see monkey-like creature with long arms and dark hair run across Highway 71 near Boggy Creek. And the last one from 1971 says a family first hears some strange howls, then sees the Sasquatch-like creature walk from the woods. They were parked at one of the Mercer Bayou boat ramps, preparing to go boating. 3 nearby campers came out of the trailer with shotguns, but did not shoot the creature. It only lingered a moment before running back into the woods, and that was all in 1971, right there in that little bitty area.
Ranger C. Platts.
I think that with it being such a high volume of sightings that during that time, that's probably what helped, decide to make the movie. And I'm sure it really helped in the movie sales, because if I remember correctly, it had like a $10,000 budget and made like 25, which for back then is like what, probably $500,000 or more of now.
Nailmus points something out. She says, in reference to the 3 toes, there are those who say that is wrong. The tracks all had 5 toes. Others say they had 3 toes that might have been a result of inbreeding. Robbie, I'm going to put up that picture you loaded of the 3-toed track. Now, that was taken in that soybean field, correct?
Yep, that was one of the tracks that they cast out of Willie Smith's field.
Well, if you look at that, it starts out with a narrower heel. But how it kind of diverges, it almost looks like part of the track is missing.
And the thing is, nobody really ever said this, or nothing that I've ever been able to find said anything about it, is how long this trackway was there before they started looking at it or started trying to cast it. Was there a rain before or after? Because I mean,
something could have obscured part of the tracks.
Yeah.
Well, then we've also got these. These are, this is from inside the Monster Mart. They've got a little museum. Those are tracks that were taken there, and most of these have 5 toes. So, and then we get further south to the Honey Island Swamp Monster, and I know it's quite a ways away. It's reported as having 3 toes. Are we looking at a genetic aberration or 2 different types of creatures? Because the Gugway is reported to have 3 toes.
Well, that trackway right there was the only trackway that they said in the movie, or even talked about in the Small Town Monsters thing, that of any tracks that were mentioned about this thing, those are the only ones that had the 3 toes. Every other track that they've ever found, because they even interviewed a guy that had found some tracks, and they talked something about that. And he said, well, those were the only ones I ever heard of that had 3 toes. Every other track around here had 5 toes. And even in the movie, if you think back to when Bobby Ford and Corky, or whatever his name was fishing, the footprint they found, if you look down at it, it's got 5 toes. It doesn't have 3 toes.
Right. So,
like you said, is it a genetic aberration, or did something mar those tracks?
Did something damage its feet?
That could be too.
Robbie, you're a tracker. Let's say, for just sake of argument, okay, I'm going to put that picture up again so you've got a frame of reference. Let's just say, for sake of argument, it's got like mud caked into the rest of its foot. Could that make a track look like that?
It's possible. I mean, what I would think would cause something more than just the mud caked into its foot is, well, go back to the Genoshqua, like we were talking about, how it used to have maybe something like a piece of bark or a river rock or something like that was stuck on some of the fur on the bottom of its foot, or it picked up something walking through that bean field that would cause that.
What are the odds that it would do that on both feet, unless it was intentional?
No, that's what I was about to say. If it was if it was just 1 foot, I would say that's something. But on both feet like that, it would either have to be, like you said, something that damaged it, or it was intentional. It put something on its. Now, whether it can do something like that or not, and why would you do something like that? Because it didn't obscure the whole track; it just obscured 2 toes. So that doesn't make any sense for a I want to get rid of my tracks type thing.
Martin Roberts, hope you. I know that's a new name. I would have spotted another Roberts. Hope you stick around, give us a like and subscribe. But he had a great comment. It says, I spent a lot of time on the West Pearl and Honey Island Swamp. Never seen any tracks, but I heard their 3 toes. We're going to be doing a show on the Honey Island Swamp Monster a week from tonight. Yeah. We'll have special guest M.K. Davis in the house to do a special on the Honey Island Swamp Monster. So look for the Honey Island Swamp Monster next week.
Yeah, and DA, he's Martin is he's from Picayune, and that's where my mama was born. That's where a lot of my people are, and that's where my middle brother was born. And I remember hearing them talk about the Honey Island Swamp Monster, and my brothers will back this up too, about how it had 3 toes. So I mean,
that seems to be the commonality among sightings of the Honey Island Swamp Monster. Yeah, just here and there, 66 says. Just here and there, 66 says, saw some large tracks when I was a kid at my grandparents' house around Peculiar, Missouri. They lived off of Old Highway 71. It was close to a creek. About 8 adults, lots of kids. Swampy area in the woods. I think I know that area that you're talking about. But then again, the time when I was a kid, that was right about the time the Momo the Monster sighting started up. And again, I think that's just another type of Bigfoot. But Louisiana, Missouri, it's kind of appropriately named. That is a very wet area. A lot of creeks running through that area, a lot of marshy areas. So these kind of environments seem to attract those things. And it's not just because it's wet. I think it's because the abundant wildlife that those areas attract.
Well, I mean, look at like you said, the ecosystem that survives in a swamp. Anything could survive in there, even us, if need be. I mean, look at the Cajuns, how long they survived in the bayous of Louisiana. I mean, I've always heard my relatives say, if every grocery store in Louisiana burnt down, I'd still have food on the table every day.
Yeah,
from the swamp.
Yeah, well, it's the same thing. Same thing if you live in a rural area of Missouri, South Carolina, even Colorado. If the grocery store shut down, those folks that know how to hunt and fish are still going to eat.
That's a fact.
Well, he's got a good question, a good point. But it would have had to done. He would have had to got caught on both feet though, because both feet were like that.
Yeah, they do run a lot of traps out there.
Yeah, and it's possible. Maybe that's why it was so dang mad all the time.
Yeah,
could be.
And the thing is, man, like you'd said too earlier, Robbie. I mean, if it was 1 foot, if they had casts of both feet and 1 foot had 3 toes, 1 foot had 5. Like DA said, that could have been some result of some sort of injury or something like that. But I'm inclined to think if it's a 3-toe thing, then it's some sort of genetic thing, like the inbreeding or things like that. And there was some comment earlier, someone had said there was a tribe in Zimbabwe where people have 2 toes on their feet. So I don't know.
Terry Mosby said, I heard a primal scream around Bowling Green, Missouri, while doing a ghost investigation back in 2008. Scared the crap out of me, and I went back to the house. Well, I don't blame you. Bowling Green, if I remember where Bowling Green's correct, if my brain is recalling it correctly, I think that's either right at or set near the Mark Twain National Forest. There's a lot of vocalizations get picked up out of there. Werewolf 5674 says Louisiana, Missouri has a lot of high hills and woodland that slope down to the river. Yeah, but that area along both sides of the river, just at the edge of town where that little bridge crosses the river there. One of the best sightings I got was from a fisherman who was going to fish at the bridge. He parked his car, was walking across the bridge to walk down the little trail that goes underneath the bridge, and stopped when he saw one of these things literally just outside of town, kneeling at the edge of the water underneath that bridge in plain sight. And I said he decided that was not a really good day to fish. And he just backed up and went back to his car and went on home.
Look what time it is.
Holy crap. Would you look at the
hell
time?
out of here.
Joseph Arnold says, I have a friend with 3 toes on 1 foot. His wife chopped 2 of them off with a lawnmower. Oof.
We got a
Billy Mitchum says, Robbie, did the lizard man have 3 toes?
Yes, it did. So there's another possibility. Could have something, because that's the same type of area as Skateboard Swamp is. I mean,
true. I mean, that what more perfect environment for a reptilian to be in than the hot swampy areas, of the South.
Yep.
Well, they would thrive there. They would, if they're a reptilian, reptiles are notorious for being cold blooded, and they would need an environment like that. Where they could maintain their body temperature. You start getting into colder areas, and it's not real conducive to reptiles. You don't see many reptiles out in cold weather.
No. Which is why I live in Colorado. Because I hate snakes.
T. Davis says, being from Louisiana, every time I head up to Iowa, I get hung up on the Louisiana, Mexico, Missouri signs on the highway. Yeah, Missouri's got some oddly named towns. Luis Noriega says, I have something to report. They closed the San Gabriel Mountain back trails and mountain trails for 3 missing hikers up in that area. It's the same area in San Gabriel Mountains that I got chased out by Crystal Lake area. Isn't that the area where there's an actor just went missing?
Yeah, Julian Sands.
Julian Sands.
Yeah.
Was in the movie Warlock and Arachnophobia. He's missing.
Yeah, sure is.
That's a pretty rough area, but he was on a marked trail.
He might have got it.
He might have got it. Outlaw Nation says, thanks, guys. Much love from northern New Mexico. What part of northern New Mexico? As a kid, I lived in a little town called Clayton in northeastern New Mexico. Jane Doe says, one of the most promising potential candidates for a natural relative of any bipedal lizard is the Argentine tegu. It's capable of regulating its own body temperature to a degree comparable to mammals. Well, that's interesting. I need to definitely look into that.
Yeah, and them things are mean.
Isn't there an Australian lizard that'll haul ass or run across water for short distances on its hind legs?
Jesus lizard.
Yeah,
the Jesus lizard. Well, that's the nickname for it. I can't remember what the technical name for it is, but they call it the Jesus lizard.
Toom might know. It's a type of lizard that I've seen that it'll just get up and haul ass on its hind legs and will cross bodies of water for short distances.
Yes, Jane Doe, it's the basilisk, but
there we go.
Its nickname is the Jesus lizard because it walks on water.
Yeah, Toom says it has a frill neck. Yeah, it looks like the spitter on Jurassic Park.
It looks a lot like me when
the legs are swinging back and forth like that.
Yeah, looks like me when I see a snake in the water.
Yep.
Yeah, Doc goes from wading to water skiing pretty fast.
Bro, I got big feet. I can move, son.
Hey, you want to hear a funny comedy scene about that lizard? Listen to Bill Engvall.
All right.
Funniest dang thing he talks. He said you wouldn't want to see it when you was high.
Outlaw Nation says they're from Kirtland, New Mexico, Four Corners area near the Navajo Nation. I live on the countryside. I've been all through that area. I had a cousin lived in Farmington for a while.
Been through there.
Pretty area.
Yeah, it is.
Here's your sign. That's it, Robert.
I just picked up another subscriber, Terry Mosby. Thank you, and welcome to the channel.
Terry.
All right.
Welcome to the nation.
Welcome to the nut house.
Yeah, there we go.
You don't have to be crazy to hang out here, but it sure helps.
It helps.
Jane Doe says there's also the Australian Argus monitor, known for tripoding on its hind legs and growing to 5 foot in length. If I saw a 5 foot lizard balancing on its hind legs and tail coming at me, I am going to mag dump that thing.
Yep. It's going to get room temperature real quick.
Yeah.
Yep.
David Bice says, Doc, you would
BRT.
be only the second guy I've met that can walk on water to get away from snakes.
Hey, it's a thing to witness. That's for sure. Oh, and David, waiting on some stuff to come in for the rest of your order, and it will be going out as soon as we get the rest of the couple of little small things built. I appreciate you.
I was going to say something else.
Damn it,
completely slipped my brain. I'm having a middle-aged moment. I forgot it.
D ain't taking his damn ginkgo, is he, Robbie?
Nope.
Yeah, I got to start taking my ginkgo biloba.
That ginkgo biloba. There
you go. This website that I posted, folkmonster.net, they keep it fairly updated. Two of the newest sightings and reports that they've added, both are from 2021. One says, a few days after the witness saw a red-colored animal, see previous entry. Okay, well, I'll start with that one. Witness reports seeing a hairy, ape-like creature that runs across a county road during daylight hours. He described it as looking like an orangutan with reddish hair. Then a few days later, after the witness saw a red-colored animal, a researcher sees what appears to be a large red animal move through the woods near Mercer Bayou during daylight hours. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, there's an awful lot of daylight sightings down there. Probably at least more so reported wise, daytime sightings than a lot of places. A lot of places, more on dusk or dawn, or just at night. But it seems like in Fouke there's a lot of daytime, and I'm talking about middle of the day stuff, not like.
Oh yeah. Well, that area is so densely wooded. I mean, Annette and I drove around that place for quite a while, and we go down some of those roads. Houses get few and far between pretty fast. Yeah. Once you're away from town, it gets pretty rural quick, and you're right next to a couple of major waterways right there too. Yeah. It's not just Boggy Creek; that's a really wet area.
I mean, dude, there's a lot of stuff that can hide in that thick forest, man. Seriously, any swampy areas, things like that, they could definitely get some good hiding spots.
Oh yeah, and on Boggy Creek, I can't remember which one it was. I think it was the first one, but it might have been Return to Boggy Creek. They brought up something that I thought was really interesting. And it was the first time I ever really gave it a lot of thought, but it shows this deer crossing the water and then it just gets yanked under. And at first I was expecting it to be a crocodile, but they pretty much flat out said this thing was hunting from the water. So, if this thing's partially, or if at least it's a good swimmer, there's no reason why it couldn't be, grabbing the occasional swimmer or animal that's trying to ford a creek and, break its neck underwater and haul it off. And some of the scenes on that you would get like bubble trails that would go for, a long way underwater. So it really made me stop and think about it. Maybe these things are using these waterways for more than just a convenient travel route.
Good.
What do y'all think?
Where does that sounds so familiar? I wonder where I've heard something like that before.
Like some kind of shark thing in the water, Robbie? Maybe.
I was just thinking about something that grabbed a deputy on something and drug him out in the middle of a lake, or
yeah.
Does that sound familiar to you, Doc?
Wouldn't know what you're talking about, boys. Lakeview man.
Some Roberts dude wrote a book on it or something.
Yeah.
Some hack.
Some hack. Yeah, and I mean, no, man. I mean, that's entirely plausible. I mean, here's the thing, man. If they're down in the swamps, and y'all already said it earlier, people from the swamps are like, hey, that's our larder, man. We got plenty of food source down there. So, I mean, food source for people, food source for critters too. So, yep. I mean, besides easy travel, that's good hunting. Because where all the forest creatures come to get their water from? They can lay in wait and snag something.
I mean,
or also fish.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's a high protein meal, especially if you're adept at catching something.
Absolutely.
But here's the question though: would Bigfoot just grab it with its hands, or would it make a fishing pole?
Depends on how
Or at least a sharp stick.
Yeah, depends on how sophisticated it is. Because I mean, we all know they use tools, and there's evidence of them using tools. So I mean, in there, if they're omnivorous, then there's all the water plants that are very nutritious as well. So they've got a smorgasbord right there. They got a buffet on the banks.
Well, they'd say even cattails are highly nutritious.
Absolutely, a lot of vitamin C in the cattails.
When I was a kid, we might have convinced one of my nephews that those were wild corn dogs.
I knew exactly.
He took a big old bite of it.
That's just mean and ugly, man. That's just ugly. Oh my Lord, man.
Oh, yeah. That ranks right up there with taking somebody snipe hunting.
Woo, man. Or cow.
Oh, he wasn't happy with me for a while.
Oh, I bet not.
I've never taken anybody snipe hunting.
Never been snipe hunting. I've been cow tipping.
How much you tip a cow? 20%?
Yeah. and they don't fall like people say they
do.
If
they're good.
They just get pissed off and chase you.
Then you go to the gas station, dance I'm a maniac while somebody sprays you off with a.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Tommy boy.
DA, my brother Keith just said Bigfoot prefers Zebco instead of the stick.
Zebco out there with Bigfoot out there with this oversized Zebco 404.
Yeah, old 33
Bigfoot,
classic, man.
Hey, you never know. You said he's sophisticated. He could be a Guggen Squad guy.
He's true. He could.
Got the white hat and he's out there fly fishing.
I mean, he could be a bait caster or a fly fisherman for all we know.
Yeah. I mean, he could be out there watching Fishing with Norm or Fishing with AO and learning how to do the bait casters. And he's Team Guggen all the way. You never know.
He's out there with his topwater jig, just waiting for that bass to pop.
The Native Americans used to build like fish traps in the water.
Oh yeah,
and the fish would swim into them, and they wouldn't be able to get back out of it. What's to say they don't use something like that? In fact, I've seen a couple of those out like in the sticks here in Missouri, but I just assumed somebody had built them. I mean, you got to assume it's the most logical explanation is it would be another person. You don't just immediately look at something and go,
"Well,
that's big."
Let's all joking aside, we know that crocs will watch people in these remote areas. They'll watch them and they'll see and watch their pattern, and they'll know when to go down and grab somebody. So if a croc can do that, how can we say something like Bigfoot couldn't watch one of these native tribes that uses these fishing traps, see that and say, and make it themselves?
Well, haven't they besides the primitive tools they found in the areas where there's evidence of the Bigfoot living, haven't they found baskets?
Yeah.
So woven baskets, woven fish traps, not too far of a stretch, is it, Robbie?
Nope.
So I'm just saying, man. I mean, what do I know? I'm just a man nurse. So, yeah.
Ace Banner 007 says, snipe hunting was fun when you're 9 years old when you're camping with the neighbor kids. Scary when you hear noises a mile away near the campsite. Jane Doe says, how many stories are there of people losing their catches to enterprising Sasquatch? Actually, I've taken a number of reports over that. There was one just down here across the not quite to the Oklahoma border, right on it though, in a little town called it's slipped my mind. I know the little town. I've driven through it a billion times. Seneca, down near Seneca, Missouri. About an old boy that was fishing, and when he turned around to walk away with a stringer full of fish, one of them was standing there, and he said he dropped the stringer of fish and backed away, and it picked him up and walked away, and he went on his merry way. But yeah, I've heard lots of stories like that where they've taken fish from people, especially up in Alaska.
Yeah, I was about to say Cam told a couple of stories on his channel about certain certain guides in Alaska when they would take people out trout fishing, that they would say, hey, or salmon fish, whichever one it is, hey, you need to leave X number of fish on the ground here for specifically for that purpose. Not for the bears, but for the Sasquatch.
Well, my grandparents years ago used to plant what they called an Indian garden. No offense on the term, but they would plant like melons and cantaloupe and crap at the back of the field, and we never went back and got it.
Yeah.
Then they had their garden up close to the house. So but they never did say that why they did that. But I heard a lot of old farmers did that.
Yeah, Daddy planted a sacrificial garden for the deer to keep the deer out.
That's what I was about to say. That's the easy answer. So, you do that for the deer and for the other the gophers and things like that, so they won't come up and bother your main crop. But it could be, like Doc said, a sacrificial crop for other purposes.
True.
Pork and Bean says, you think Bigfoot can hunt from trees too? I don't see any reason why it couldn't. Especially a younger one might have figured out that it could drop on something.
Something climbing in trees and moving from tree to tree.
Well, we talked about that one in the backtracking thing, that we believe they use trees in the backtracking, so why not use it that way too?
Yeah.
Billy
Mitchum says, how about eating a not ripe persimmon? Funny you talk about things being ripe. Is when I was a little kid, and I remember this when we lived on the farm, we had a small orchard. We had 3 or 4 apple trees and a couple of pear trees, and my dad would watch those like a hawk until they were right at the point of ripeness, and then he'd get out there with a couple of bushel baskets and have us kids picking all we could get. Because after they reached when they got ripe, if you didn't pick them, they were gone. You'd come out the next morning, they're just gone. I mean, way up where the deer can't reach either. I mean, I've seen plenty of deer stand on their hind legs to reach an apple. I've seen that happen.
Yep.
It's not that uncommon. Deer can balance for short times on their hind legs. Kind of weird the first time you see it, but deer can do it. But deer ain't going to reach 25 feet up in a tree.
Nope.
No. And we would come out, if you didn't get out there and get those picked, you'd come out and they'd just be picked clean.
Well, that's not terrifying at all.
Dad always just chalked it up to people that live down the road, people stealing, because we had some bad elements that lived not too far from our farm, within walking distance. Had one guy, we raised hogs, and my dad worked a lot of overnights, and he'd get home late in the morning. He worked at a steel plant in Lebanon. He would work the farm during the day, but he'd come home and get a few hours sleep. And one of the neighbors, who was kind of a bad seed, said, "You wouldn't really shoot somebody for trying to get into your hogs." He goes, "Well, get in there and find out." And Dad kept shotgun shells loaded with rock salt and bacon fat. And one early morning hours, somebody was trying to get into the hogs, and Dad loaded them right in the seat of the pants. And funny thing, about a week later, that guy walked in with my dad and said, "You wasn't kidding. You will shoot somebody." So I told you.
Yeah.
You get in there with them hogs, I'll shoot you.
Yeah. I got loaded up. Me and a couple of friends of mine got loaded up with rock salt one night. Stealing watermelons out of old man Fairchild's field. Was down by the creek. It stings a lot.
Salt does not feel good.
No.
Ouch. That hurt.
Yeah.
Lori Barnes says, my brother has a peach tree in Arizona. He does the same thing, watches it like a hawk, because as soon as they're ripe, the chipmunks steal every one of them. I can just see that Chip and Dale out there ripping off the peaches.
I'd like to see one try to stick one in their mouth in their little pouch.
One on each side, so they can't even drag their head.
It's like all top heavy.
It just pitches over backwards out of the tree. Dunk, 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 dunk.
It's like a reverse Weeble wobble. He does fall down.
He can't get back up.
He can't get back up. Help, I fall and can't get up.
Now, Mrs. Alvin!
Okay.
Well, we are
good, Robbie.
Whew. Yeah, that was pretty good, man. We are diving.
Yeah, we got a little deviated there.
Yeah, we did. Our topic derailed, or the topic train derailed just a little bit.
A little bit.
But no, I mean, you think about it, the fruit and stuff like that. I mean, they're like anything else. They're opportunistic hunters too, man. They're gonna grab whatever they can.
Well, down there, that's a good thing about pointing out of Boggy Creek. Every place we drove by when we got outside of town, everybody had a garden, and I would see usually some apple trees. But what are those? I'm trying to remember the name of them. They don't grow naturally in Missouri, but you guys get them all over the South. Trying to think of. Oh my God, muscadines. That's the one. Saw a lot of muscadine trees down there.
That makes some good wine too, man.
I've never had muscadine wine.
Son. Yeah. My Aunt B made some muscadine wine down in Picayune. Martin Roberts. Yes, sir.
Now, Doc, how many times as a kid did you walk around in the woods with a pocket full of muscadines?
Dude, we would eat them things till that acid would eat the skin off the top of our mouth, son.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, oh my God. Yeah, you get the backdoor trot, you eat too many of them things too.
Yep.
I ain't heard that referred like that in a while.
Whew. Son, it's like green plums. That stuff will tear you up.
Yep. I've never had a muscadine.
Stop prairie dogging.
I mean, I know what they are, but I've never had one.
Muscadines and scuppernongs. Those are the two types of
scuppernongs. Yeah.
The two types of wild. They call them swamp grapes is another name for them.
Yeah.
But man, muscadines and scuppernongs are absolutely delicious. Delicious food. I mean, it's just a big old wild swamp grape. Is all it is.
Yeah, my grandpa used to make muscadine wine. And I remember me and him, my dad, go out in the woods up behind my grandpa's house, and we would just like pick baskets and baskets full of muscadines, and I think I probably ate more than I picked.
I think so. Yeah.
I can tell you one thing that does grow wild here in Missouri that I would practically get in a fist fight with a Sasquatch over, and that's good blackberries. Mm-hmm. Man, we get the blackberries. They get a good harvest of blackberries. Seal up little tubs of those and freeze them so you can make blackberry cobbler in the wintertime. Blackberries are just the best, especially if you get them just when they're perfect ripe. I would sit there and eat until I was sick.
Yeah,
picking them right off the vine.
When you was a kid, man, your hands would be all tore up from the freaking thorns.
Yeah,
your fingers and your lips would be purple, be all dyed from eating them. I mean,
it take days for that to go away. You been eating blackberries?
Nope.
Ain't no telling how much bug poop we ate. Growing up as kids. Huckleberries, blackberries, blueberries. I mean, if we know that, then
they definitely know that. Well, there's so many sightings of Bigfoot in berry patches. In fact, up in Alaska, some of the places where people go missing are in berry patches. Man. But there's so much like that. There's like in my backyard, I got wild strawberries grow all over the backyard, and those are tart little rascals. But they only get about yay big. I mean, they don't get like big like strawberries you'd expect to see. Wild strawberries don't get very big, and they're pretty tart. Rhubarb's another food source. There's just so many of these plants that grow wild that are not only edible but highly nutritious. And these are things that if you're looking at Bigfoot habitat or swamp ape or any kind of large omnivore, you're looking at habitat. These are things you need to look at. If you're in an area that's even if it's got plenty of water, if you don't see a lot of these plants growing, you're probably not going to get much activity in that area because those plants are just part of the ecosystem. Having those plants in the area is not only a food source for the Bigfoot itself, but it draws in deer, it draws in squirrel, it draws in chipmunks. Every animal out there, is either directly feeding on those or indirectly feeding on those.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, because they like the berries and everything just like the deer do, and of course they like deer because they're meat eaters too. So it's definitely a symbiotic thing. I mean, they're top of the food chain there. So
David By says rhubarb is delicious, and then Lori Barnes beat me to the comment. Strawberry rhubarb pie. Strawberry rhubarb is one of my favorite pies. But I'll tell you my absolute favorite pie, and I really haven't had it since my mother passed away because the recipe went with her, raisin pie.
I ain't never had that.
She used to make an amazing raisin pie.
Raisin?
Never heard of it.
Raisin pie.
I ain't never had that.
I ain't never heard of that.
I
It was
ain't
my
either.
favorite. My mom's the only one I knew how to make it.
I bet Bigfoot eats the hell out of some sweet tater pie.
And pumpkin pie.
Yeah. I'm getting hungry talking about all this Bigfoot food.
Well, Doc, that conversation we were having the other night, when I called you, we were talking about medicinal plants. And there's no reason why these creatures wouldn't be aware of the medicinal properties of these plants. I think it was Eric Testerman who's in the chat. Him and I were talking. He's found spruce bark stripped 12 feet up a tree.
100%.
Deer don't do that.
No, absolutely, man. I mean, if they know all this other stuff, and I mean, even you and I were talking about this the other night when we were on that call. Deer, they found deer or bear that have gotten shot and have went down to a mud waller and coated that wound with mud to stop the bleeding, And so even at that, I mean, okay, deer, I would say on the intelligence scale, deer down here and Bigfoot is up here. They're sentient creatures too, and just like us, and they got to know what's medicinal. I mean, they're going to know what's going to kill you, what's not. And what's going to help you and what's not. So I would 100% agree that they know the medicinal plants in that area for sure. Rhubarb, not rhubarb, the spruce bark, white willow. I bet if there's white willow in areas where
white oak
sightings, they'll find bark stripped off of that because they're going to chew that if they got a fever, or if they got any kind of pain. And the white oak and that tulip poplar we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It has antibacterial properties to it. So, yeah, absolutely, man.
Well,
and David Bay,
honey.
Dandelions have a ton of medicinal and food uses. Absolutely.
Well, a handful of acorns gives you as much protein as a protein bar that you're going to buy in a store and is a lot better for you.
Absolutely.
And, Bigfoot, they talk about them having big, wide, flat teeth. Be child's play for that to crunch up an acorn.
Yeah, they grind that stuff up like a coffee grinder, man. Absolutely. Look at deer.
Chicory root.
Yeah, you getting a hard bottom flat with a bunch of white oaks and red oaks, man. Them deer will tear them acorns up, son.
Mm-hmm. Chicory and ginseng are also two roots that would be very, very useful.
Well, and sassafras, sassafras roots. So
and I would even venture so far as to say that they probably use yellow root, even though it's nastiest stuff ever made, but there's plenty of medicinal purposes in yellow root.
Well, you can, like cloves. Cloves are gross. But you can use clove oil for a toothache, and if you can't get in to see the dentist for a couple of days, clove oil will save your butt. You put that directly on a hurt tooth. Clove oil will kill the pain for a few hours. However, fair warning: clove oil tastes like crap. Yeah. Oh my God, it's horrible to taste.
Yeah.
But it will soften a toothache if you can't get to a dentist.
Yeah, and then Growing Old with Purpose had a great comment. When it comes to living compatible with nature, Sasquatch is miles ahead of humankind. We do so much to destroy even our own habitat. How smart is that? Yeah, I mean, they are the ultimate live off the land.
Ultimate survivalists.
Yeah, they're the ultimate survivalists. They have hide and seek champions and ultimate survivalists, so.
Mm-hmm. Jane Doe says gorilla are primarily herbivorous and have absolutely monstrous bite pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, just look at the size of that jawbone, and like with us, our jawbone muscles attach right here. But on some of the models of Bigfoot and even gorilla skulls, the muscles attach back here, which would give them tremendous bite pressure.
Mm.
Snap that finger off.
Inky says knife check, everyone.
Knife check.
There we go.
Get your scallywags out, boys.
Well, this is a good time to we're just over an hour. It is a good time to mention the affiliate program. I'm glad Inky mentioned that. Folks, we are a Scallywag official affiliate. If you go to scallywag.com, check out some of the knives they have. They have some of the best knives I've ever carried. Use discount code DA Roberts at DR Roberts 10 at the checkout for 10% off your entire order. That's even the discounted or blemished blades. Everybody's fixing to get out their Scallywags. I got 2 or 3 with an easy reach, but this is one of my favorites. It's called the Valhalla. Just an absolute wunderbar of a knife. Doc just got his gunner's mate, and I gotta say, I think I like your gunner's mate better than mine.
Thanks, man. Hey, I got mine. Hey, I talked to Craig yesterday, and guess what? I got on the way.
What's that? A bounty?
A bounty.
See, my gunner's mate is two-toned, and I like that solid black better.
This is tactical.
Yeah, tactical.
Tactical.
But then again, you might have a cool gunner's mate, but I've got the boarding axe.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do.
Love that thing. Robbie's got his dew claw.
That dew claw is bad to the bone, son.
That is a great everyday carry knife.
That's a great, great.
You can cut everything from twine to paper with that thing and not affect it whatsoever.
I bet you could chop up some summer sausage with it too, couldn't you?
Bet you could.
And I got to think about that the other day, DA, when we was talking about this. We ain't never just, we talked about how sharp these are. We ain't never just showed people.
Woo! Them things are sharp, son.
I figured it'd be good to give a demonstration since we always talk about
how
sharp they are, but we never just show it. Yeah.
That's a thing of beauty right there.
She's sharp.
Head over to scallywagtactical.com. Tell them we sent you, and don't forget to use discount code DA Roberts 10 for 10% off your entire order. Just some fantastic knives.
When they just hit on it, the black kitchen knives are amazing, and I think DA may have just received a set of those kitchen knives.
Yes, I wanted to mention that. I'm going to go over to the website so I can show the actual picture because I don't have a picture of mine.
Ranger.
I got a message the other day from Craig. Craig Burhart's the owner of Scallywag Tactical, and he said, "Hey brother, I need your shipping address." I'm like, "For what?" And he said somebody ordered you a gift, and he wouldn't tell me who it was. He said he did say it was a woman. He said she was a fan of my books and of the show, and she wanted to send me a gift. And I don't know who sent it. But I am super grateful. Thank you guys so much. Whoever sent that, thank you so much, because this was not a small gift. What I got in the mail was about a week later from the time Craig contacted me, and it's this set right here. It's the kitchen set, the back in black kitchen set. It's it's more than a dozen knives. I mean, it is a bunch of knives.
Beautiful.
Actually, I think it's right at a dozen knives. But you've got all of these right here. You've got a meat cleaver, a chef's knife, a santoku knife, a slicing knife, a breading knife, a boning knife, a utility knife, a paring knife, and 6 steak knives. Just an absolutely gorgeous set. Comes in this wooden display case, knife block. Just look at the what is that, Damasking?
Yeah,
Damascus.
Yeah, that's the same Toku knife. There's the cleaver. Those are just absolutely stunningly beautiful knives. And like I said, Craig wouldn't tell me who sent the gift. So whoever sent that, thank you so much. In fact, I used them tonight, preparing dinner before the show. Just an absolutely amazing set of knives. And you want to talk freaking sharp. I was cutting bell peppers, and it was like, sunk. I mean, I wasn't even putting pressure. It's just right through that bell pepper. I cut up bell peppers and onions with ooh.
AJ remembers your on-air demo, DA.
Yeah, when I took a hunk out of my arm. Thought I was going to need a tourniquet for that one quit bleeding.
I got you.
Not my brightest moment, folks, but
damn it, Doc, would you look at that?
We'll practice some remote medicine.
There we go.
Ranger's down here eviscerating a toy. Dude.
Miss Naoma's heading out. Good night, man. Good night, Miss Naoma. Richard Cox says those boning knives scare me. Well, that one, I'm telling you, that thing is wicked sharp. I was cutting some bones out of some thick cut pork chops with those. I almost had a major accident with the Santoku knife tonight. I was cutting onions with that Santoku knife, and I lost it. I've lost my grip on it. It started to fall, and my first reaction was to grab it, and I stopped myself. I was about to grab the blade. I was fixing to get cut to the bone on any one of my fingers. About to grab that thing. I just let it fall to the floor. I was like, "Oh, that was almost bad."
That's you watch certain things, and nothing bothers the three of us about stuff. We've all seen pretty much everything there is to be seen. But there are certain scenes. If either of y'all ever seen that movie Snake Eater with Lorenzo Lamas?
Yeah.
You know what scene I'm talking about, DA?
Yep. You talk about the epitome of terrible actor.
Oh, yeah. The movie is goofy as all get out, but after they knock him out, or thought they knocked the guy out, and she grabs that knife and starts to walk away with it, and he reaches up and just grabs a hold of that big Bowie knife. And she's pulling away, and he's that's hurting my fingers just right now thinking about it.
Yeah.
Ah! Lord have mercy.
You'll do that.
David By says, "Lene, if they're smooth edge, I'm all for them." Every one of those knives, the back in black kitchen knives, every one of them are smooth edge except for one, and that's the bread knife, and it's also very, very sharp. I was cutting garlic bread with that. Werewolf 5674. So I remember that DA shaving his arm, blood squirt everywhere. It was a mere flesh wound. It wasn't that bad. I went, and I was like, oh, that shaved closer than I thought, and it's not bleeding yet. I'm like, oh, that's deeper than I thought. While wrapping a rag around my wrist for like half the show.
Yeah. What's bad is whenever you're doing that business, and you see the cut, but you don't feel the pain yet. That's how you know that sucker is that sharp.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it was. I was like, I had the knife was like shaving hair off my wrist, and I guess I got a little closer than I intended, and I got a spot about the size of a dime. It just went, and I was like, it didn't bleed at first, and it didn't hurt. I was like, oh crap.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like very impressed about the how sharp the knife was, but at the same time, I'm like, that's fixing to bleed.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, all the Scallywag's knives that I've got, they come ready to shave. I mean, even this little booger right here, that little sucker is one ferociously sharp little blade. Yeah, that's a great little knife, man. Great little knife. I can't remember the model of it, but it ain't
I
too.
can tell you real quick.
It ain't too expensive.
Let me go over to folders. This one is called the Mini Jack, and it's on sale right now for $18.
Bro.
And that little rascal is sharp, and you can carry it in a shirt pocket. I mean, it's not a real big knife. About a 2-inch blade on it, just freaking sharp. The Jolly Rogers, which I've got a couple of those. That's this knife right here. These are on sale right now for $35. Just an absolutely fantastic knife. The Orca is on sale for $16, and I've got that over here somewhere.
That's the one I got.
Orca's right here. It's partially serrated. It's one of the few folders that are like that. Also wicked sharp right out of there. This would be a great everyday carry knife. They're on sale right now for $16. It's hard. You can buy a cheap ass pocket knife at Walmart for $10-15, but the quality of these knives is second to none. And find one for $16 is just kind of astounding.
Well, and Scallywag makes some great knives. I mean, I've got a lot of knives, and honestly, for the price, you can't beat them. You really can't.
No, the Mako was on sale for $25. It's sold out. I've got that. The Mako's got a kind of a different latch mechanism on it. You can take a look at it. It doesn't really open the same as the others. It's got that little thumb catch right here. You open it like that, and then it closes by this little lever right there.
It's got an axis lock on it, like a lot
Yeah.
of maids. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, this is the Orca is what I generally carry most days. It's either that or I either carry the Orca or the Privateer.
Yeah. Fine knives, y'all. I mean,
No, not Privateer, Jolly Roger.
Go over there and give Craig and the guys at Scallywag some love, because you will not get a better knife for the money. I can guarantee you that. They're solid.
Scallywag's blades are absolutely solid. You get a good discount, 10% off, DA Roberts 10. Use the discount code. And they're also a veteran-owned company, and I'm big on supporting veteran-owned companies.
Amen to that.
You'd know a little bit about that, wouldn't you, Doc?
A little bit. Yeah, and if you're using that knife and you don't have a Dark Angel medical kit around you,
what an awesome segue.
That was leading me into the other one.
Yeah, so head over to darkangelmedical.com and use the discount code cryptid25, and we will give you 25% off of your order. That's the biggest discount we offer. And if you ever use your kit to save a life, whether it's yours or someone else's, we will replace whatever you have used 100% free of charge. And that is called our Kit for Life guarantee. So
how many life saves are you up to now, Doc?
We're at 162 now, sir.
Whoa, that's up 4 from the last time I talked to you.
Yes, sir.
Let's go. That's 162 people still drawing breath because of your kits.
It's pretty rad, man. It's pretty rad.
That is freaking awesome.
Yeah. So y'all head out there and check out those med kits. They're not the cheapest med kits, but I hate that when people say, well, your med kits ain't cheap. No, they're not cheap. And there's a reason why, because we put stuff in there that actually works, stuff I've used, stuff that buddies of mine have used in the bad environments. And we're not going to put something in there that you know, it's like Winston Churchill said, you can't, I'd rather have a third-rate soldier with a first-rate soldier with a third-rate weapon, you know, than a third-rate soldier with a first-rate weapon. You can't expect, the best results with the poorest products. So we put the best products in there, and because people's lives may depend on that. So we pack birthdays in boxes. That's what I say. Every time we're packing an order, that's another birthday right there.
We used to have a saying, was actually painted on the wall of our training room. It said, "You don't rise to the level of your expectations; you fall to the level of your training."
100%. And we also provide training. David Bye's been to one of my training classes, and he can attest to the thoroughness of the training that we provide. And we provide training all over the United States. Our calendar's up on our website at darkangelmedical.com. Go there, check it out, look at our schedule. And if we're not in your area and you want to host us, let us know. We'll come teach in your area of operations. That's no problem at all.
I carried one of Dark Angel's kits throughout the bulk of my law enforcement career. I was in law enforcement for almost 20 years. The bulk of my career, I carried a Dark Angel kit, and I would not trust my life to any other kit. And that's not just because I know Doc. That's because they're damn good kits. And anybody that works with me could tell you that worked with me when I was on duty. I had a dark kit, direct action response kit, behind my gun on my right hip at the back. And everybody that I was with knew where the tourniquet was and how to get to that kit quickly. Right. Because I figured, considering how dangerous being in law enforcement was, I figured that kit was there for my life, not necessarily someone else's. That doesn't mean I wouldn't use it on somebody else, but that was there probably for an EMT to rip open and use on me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I wanted them to have first-rate equipment to work with.
I mean, we've got tier 1 operators carrying our kits all the way from, to street cops to soccer moms to construction workers to school teachers. And our kits are for they're not for, one specific demographic. They're for every demographic, because a med kit is not a fashion statement. It's a way of life. And if you don't have a med kit on you or nearby, then you're inviting Mr. Murphy to pay you a visit. That's for sure.
But, I liken a med kit to a parachute. It's better to have one and not need one than need one and not have one. Because if you ever need one and you don't have it, you may never need one again.
Amen to that, brother. Yeah.
Yep.
It's never a good thing to say. I wish I had one.
Because you probably ain't saying it. It's probably something one of your family members saying, I wish he'd have had a.
Well,
Yeah.
Dark Angel's got kits for all occasions. They've got your basic, what do you call it, the ouch pouch
The
that
ouch
has
pouch.
has just your basic, Band-Aid, first aid kind of Neosporin kind of kit. But then you've got kits like the Dark kit and the Spear kit. I carry the Dark on my duty belt, and those are high-end trauma kits that you can stop a sucking chest wound. You can tourniquet a bleed. There's a lot in one of those trauma kits that can save a life.
That's right. And it's like Jane Doe said, therefore med kits are generally potentially useful to all humans, because she said earlier, we all humans bleed, and we always say, blood belongs in the body. It's science. So it's one of those.
The more of
things.
it you got in there, the better off you are.
Absolutely, I'm passionate about this stuff, man. So if y'all head over to Dark Angel Medical and give us a gander, and if hey, it's FSA HSA eligible too. So it's FSA HSA approved. So if you got the FSA or HSA account, we have the correct code on there, so you can order that up. And if you want to split it out over 4 payments, then do that too with Sezzle. So there you go.
David By says, training better than any I've had anywhere, and I was a combat lifesaver certified in the Army.
I appreciate you, David. Appreciate you, man. Very much. Yeah, but don't put a tourniquet around your neck, y'all. Okay, for a head wound. Don't put a tourniquet around your neck. Just saying.
I can't breathe.
Yeah, can't breathe. It'll stop the bleeding. It'll stop everything else too.
All bleeding stops eventually.
Yeah, all bleeding does stop eventually. Night, Richard. Have a good night, man. Thank you for
man.
Night,
Richard.
But now that we've talked about our affiliates, let's get back to talking some Bigfoot, shall we?
Let's get back to the Boggy Creek.
Let's do it.
Well, much like having a Dark Angel kit, Bigfoot can't rely on something like that. So it's going to know about these medicinal plants. It's going to know about which plants are edible. One thing I've talked about to quite a few researchers that research the Arkansas, Mark Twain, Ozark National Forest, Southern Missouri area, is we're starting to notice that some of those bent trees are in areas where there are a lot of medicinal plants. Now, I can't say that's a coast-to-coast thing, but it is definitely an Ozarks thing.
Do tell.
Well, I've talked to quite a few people, and they would find spruce or why they would find a different what was that one we found? What do you call it? The Devil's Walking Stick or something like that?
Yeah, the Devil's Walking Stick. Yeah, that's the one. It's for it's along the lines of the white oak and the tulip poplar. That it's has very strong antibacterial properties. Even kills MRSA.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean that's why they're looking at those medication or herbal medications derived from those plants, because we're seeing antibiotic resistance. I mean, we were using vancomycin in the intensive care unit, and I'm gonna tell you, man, there's even vancomycin resistant staff, and this stuff, this Devil's Walking Stick is and the white oak and the tulip poplar have shown extreme promise even against killing that stuff. So
Papa Bear had a great comment. He says, I find it funny how so many cryptids are so abundant around former lands of Mound people. And if you're familiar with Mound people at all, one of the largest mound cities, mound civilizations in the country was the Cahokia Mounds just across the Mississippi River from St. Louis. Those are extensive, with some of the mounds being like on the scale of one of the Great Pyramids. I mean, those earthen mounds are massive. The Mississippian culture developed these mounds and their civilizations, and he's absolutely right. A lot of Bigfoot creatures are seen in and around these old mound sites. Corey Cole says, DA, have any of you guys ever done an investigation or camped down around Fouke, Arkansas? All I can say to that is not yet. It's a bit of a drive for me. It's like 8 hours, but I do want to get with my boys here and see about possibly getting that cabin that Denny was telling me about right there on Boggy Creek, and spend 4 or 5 days, maybe a week down there. Louis Noriega says, "Hey, doctor's question for you: Is Bank of Madison penicillin based? Basically, give me that stuff a long time ago, and I'm allergic to penicillin. I still say she gave me something else and not vancomycin, but she swears up and down she told the supervisor it was vancomycin bag."
No, vancomycin is the mycin class drug. It's like erythromycin or a zithromycin, like Zithromax, Z-Pax. So it's a different class drug than penicillin. Penicillin is like your first generation drug. Vancomycin is like a later generation drug. It's a broad spectrum drug that's very, very powerful for systemic infection like that. So no, it's a totally different class of drugs.
Growing old purposes, many high-priced pharmaceuticals are pills come from many medicinal plants. Mankind exploits nature. Sasquatch lives in harmony with it. And a lot of things like, not to put too fine a point on it, there are products like this, and again, not endorsing it. I don't know if I can get it to read it. It's spruce oil extract. It's made from wild spruce. Just pop it under your tongue, and I've looked for a lot of homeopathic ways with my back because it's bad. I mean, eventually it's going to put me in a wheelchair, um, and they can't operate. So it's just going to continue to get worse. But I found good effect some of these homeopathic remedies, and they may not be as strong as taking an opioid, but when you're talking degrees of relief, 10 degrees, 10% relief is a lot more than people realize.
Yeah.
Even if it's only helping you 5 to 10%, that's a tremendous amount when you're in chronic pain.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like the herbal medications that herbal drugs or whatever have gone over into mainstream meds. Look at folks with congestive heart failure. They'll take digitalis. That's derived from foxglove, because what it does, it actually produces a stronger what they call a positive inotropic effect. Basically, it just makes the heart contract stronger. So people with congestive heart failure, it helps them out. So belladonna, belladonna can be deadly nightshade. In too much. Obviously, too much of a good thing is not a good thing. But like Donatol, if you ever had anybody diagnosed with any kind of intestinal problems or spastic stomach or something like that, they'd give them a Donatol based medication to help kind of quell the smooth muscle movements. So a lot of cool stuff, man, with the herbal medicine. I mean, like I've always said, and I've said it on so many shows, and y'all have heard me say it. If it's growing, if there's a ailment we suffer from, there's something growing out of the ground that'll treat it or cure it.
Well, the Native Americans used to say that for every disease, there's a plant to cure it.
Absolutely. And here's the thing, man. We've talked about the whole tribal aspect of the Sasquatch and how the Native Americans had their own. I don't know where DA went. How the Native Americans
Code yellow.
Okay, how the Native Americans have always said, they've used this stuff too, and the Sasquatch, it would stand to reason that they know exactly what to use along the same lines.
Well, yeah, and I've heard plenty of old trappers and mountain men and said, that or the hardcore survivalists that used to go out, and that's what they had to do. It's not like it is today. You out there in the middle of the woods and you don't have anything. You got to know what you can do to help yourself.
Right. Exactly.
And I've heard them say plenty of times, there's a pharmacy out there. You just got to know what to look for and what to use at what time or any given time.
No. Yeah. I mean, and they know exactly what to look for. I mean, these cats are so well versed with the indigenous, flora of their area that they live in. They know what's good for what, and and if they get an ouchie or a boo boo or whatever kind of ailment they got, they know what plant to look for. It's pretty amazing, man. We've lost a lot of that in our society, and there's a great book out there. I'm not plugging the dude for any kind of remuneration or anything, but there's a book called The Herbal Medic.
I've heard of it.
Herbal Medic, and I mean, it's on Amazon, so go check it out. And it's got a lot of great medicinal herbs in there.
Also, since you're talking about books that are good for stuff like that, and I can't remember how, but it's basically it's old frontier remedies and things like that. Teaches you how to make pemmican and all that kind of stuff. It also has a very extensive chapter on herbal remedies and things like that. But it teaches you how to build a spiral garden, teach you how to make pemmican. It's just all these old frontier things that people used to know how to do that we don't know how to do anymore.
Yeah.
Well, the SAS Survival Guide's got a lot of that in it.
Yeah.
I
don't know if y'all are familiar with that. I'm sure you guys are, but this is the SAS Survival Guide Pocket Edition. I've got the full-size edition on my book rack behind my green screen, but whenever I go out in the field, this goes with me.
Absolutely. It's a great book to have. And you know, and you hit the nail on the head, DA. You know, these critters know exactly what to use if something's ailing them, and they've got the knowledge.
Native Americans learned that over thousands of years of living among those plants. So it only goes to tell you, if they learned it, the Sasquatch could learn it.
That's one I was talking about.
Send me the title on that. I may have to add that to my library.
Very good. It's called The Lost Ways, and it's written by. Let me get over here where I can see.
Put that in our co-host chat. Yeah,
I will.
I'd like to order that.
I mean, there's over 200 chapters in this book of just everything that you would need to know how to pictures on how to do things like I said about the spiral garden and things like that. Stuff that we used to know that I've heard my great grandparents talk about. You know, my grandmother still cans to this day. She's 90 something years old and she still cans, but it tells you how to do that in here, which, you know, how many people do stuff like that anymore?
Yeah. I mean, thankfully Angie knows how to can, how to jelly, jam, pickle, preserve. I mean, that's a lost art to you know, generations after Generation X, unless people have been trained and taught by their parents, you know. I mean, because I wish I'd have paid more attention to my mama when she was doing that kind of stuff, but thankfully
I wish I had too. My mom died when I was still pretty young.
Yeah.
I learned most of what I know about cooking from her.
Yeah.
But you know, she passed when I was 12. But you know, that's, you know, when you look at it, 3 of the most valuable skills you can learn as an adult is how to cook, how to grow your own food, and how to can. And none of those are taught in school.
No.
Oh.
Home
unless home ec, maybe to an extent.
Yeah. Home
They don't even teach you how to write a check anymore, how to balance a checkbook.
Well, nobody writes checks anymore. I haven't written a check in probably 5 years.
Yeah.
Maybe longer.
I mean, it's a lost thing, man. But you know, like these Bigfoot, man, they got their own on the job training. You know, they got their OJT. They know what to use for whatever they need. And,
well, they're probably being taught survival skills from their family unit from the moment they're old enough to walk.
Absolutely. It's
Robert D says how to hunt and fish too. Exactly. Those are life preserving skills.
It's a tribe thing. It's survival of the tribe. You know,
right.
I mean, look at it. Let's look at the tribes down in the Amazon. Look at the tribes in Africa. You know, when the boys reach that age of that rite of passage age, they're out there with the hunting parties, learning how to do all that kind of stuff. You know, the basic stuff they learn before they hit that rite of passage, learning how to cook, learning how to, you know, learn how to skin an animal, how to clean an animal, stuff like that. So that's thing that I think that's things like you said that's passed down with those tribes of Sasquatch too.
Yeah. but it's stuff that we used to, everybody used to know how to do. Everybody used to, getting out there and learning. I mean, it's just like when my dad was trying to teach me how to work on a car. That stuff you need could help you out someday. Just like this could save your life someday.
Absolutely.
And I made it a point to teach both my kids how to change their own oil, how to change tires, how to cook, how to do all that stuff, because, one of these days I'm not going to be here. And if they're reliant on me and don't know how to do this stuff on their own, what are they going to do? And to answer Meg's question, the guy's name is Claude Davis, who wrote that book. Oh, I'm sorry.
I just posted in the chat.
Yeah, that was my uncle's name.
My wife's grandfather's name was Claude.
Be right back.
My uncle's name was Claude. Claude Rains. Not the guy who played the movie Monsters either. Even though that's the same name.
A couple of them. I'll read a couple more of those accounts for folks. These are also new, but they happened in 2019. This one says a couple driving south of Smackover. Apparently, there's a town down there named Smackover, 65 miles from Fouke. Saw a tall, upright animal dart into the woods around 11 p.m. The couple described it as being very large, at least 6 to 7 feet tall, and definitely not human. Its eyes reflected in the headlights before it ran off with a swiftness that was too quick for a human. And then also another new one says a man was driving on a county road south of Fouke after dark when he noticed red eyes shine in the woods. As he approached, he could make out the form of a large humanoid figure standing flush with the line of trees. There are a lot of these accounts on this page. That page I mentioned, FoukeMonster.net. They're not lengthy, but they date back to 1908. And a lot of these sightings come before anybody even knew what Bigfoot, knew the word Bigfoot. Yeah.
So from 1908 to 2021.
Mm-hmm. Over 100 years of sightings.
Yep. So, that's just that one little corner of the United States.
But it's really bizarre how there are so many in that one particular area. And the thing is I think people down there aren't afraid to talk about it. But you get so many places like, Camdenton, Missouri, where getting a Bigfoot story out of somebody, and I know there's sightings in that area because I've talked to a few people that have had them right there on the shores of Lake of the Ozarks. But to get a Bigfoot story out of somebody in that area, it's a very hillbilly mentality around that area. Even the people that moved into the area seem to have picked that up. They just don't talk about it to outsiders. So I think for every one sighting report in Missouri that we actually get, there's probably 50 that go unreported.
I think it's that way here too. But you get places like Washington and Oregon, which are the Southern California, which are known for it, and everybody knows that it's not as much of a stigma to talk about it there as it is in places like this where people are worried about getting called crazy and things like that. I mean, I know because that's how I felt. 40-something years, I never told anybody outside of my family. And I even had people in my family that called me. Like I told you, my stepdad didn't believe me till probably 10 or 15 years ago. And, people just don't want to put up with that. I mean, you don't want to get called crazy. Being crazy by yourself ain't no fun.
Yeah, that's a fact. Crazy loves company. Joseph Arnold says, what would remove the skull from a large hair but leave the face? No other visible wounds. It was large like a swamp rabbit. It was left at the steps of my deck inside a 6-foot privacy fence. That's got to be something with hands. I'm not saying it, not saying it couldn't be a person. I'm not saying it couldn't be a Bigfoot. But to remove the skull from the hide and leave the flesh of the head intact, that's a deliberate act. Coyotes don't do that. They don't tear the bone away from it. They would have just ate it. And inside a 6-foot privacy fence, that wouldn't have been a coyote anyway. But that's definitely got to be something with hands. I would think anyway. I guess it's outside the possibility that maybe something tore it apart and a crow left it. Because I've had crows leave some pretty wild crap on my porch. me see if I can reach my little jar down here. I don't know if you can see all these little shiny rocks in there. There's 15 or 20 of them. Little polished rocks. Really just kind of some neat little rocks. I kept finding them around my front porch. And for about 3 months that went on. I'd find one here and there. Sometimes find more than one. And I've started asking my family, I'm like, where the hell are these things coming from? Well, it turned out my youngest son, Noah, was taking old bread we were going to throw out and feeding it to a group of crows that live in our area. I see them around all the time. And for him feeding them, they've been bringing us shiny rocks ever since. I still find one once in a while.
It's funny what animals will do.
Joseph Arnold says, my dogs refused to go outside with me when I found it. Well, that right there is a pretty good indication that it's something, the dogs were smelling something they didn't want any part of. That would not be a crow. That would not be, a small animal by any means. And it wouldn't be a person because most dogs don't back away from the scent of people. Generally, dogs will let you know when they don't like somebody, but they don't generally run from somebody or refuse to go near it. Unless they like you get a shelter dog that's been abused. As Harley was a rescue, and he didn't like guys with beards when we first got him. It was about 3 weeks before he really warmed up to me, and now he's my little buddy. I mean, he's just a delight to be around, a little turd when he's being good, that is. But dogs don't normally react that way to the smell of a person. So the fact that your dogs wouldn't go out says to me that you had something large, predator-ish left that. And bears wouldn't have climbed the fence. A good-sized bear wouldn't have climbed the fence. It would have come through it. Wolves ain't going to do that. Not over a 6-foot fence. Wolf would have just ate that. So I think we can pretty much rule out most of the known animals when we say what would leave the flesh without the bone of a rabbit on your deck.
Yeah, that's not a. I mean, would it be akin to like a? I know cats are big about this. They'll bring you their trophies. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And drop them off on the porch.
But if it'd been a cat, dogs have been like, "Oh, cat."
Right. Exactly.
Joseph Arnold says it was odd. Yes, dogs wouldn't go near the fence that day. So if you live in a wooded area where the woods that are up near that privacy fence, there's a good chance something was at that fence watching.
Yeah.
It might have been gauging your reaction.
I'm like what Tombstone says. When my dog reacts to things, I pay attention.
That's a fact.
That's
100%. The dog.
I never trust a guy. I never trust a person who doesn't like dogs. But I always trust a dog that doesn't like a person.
Oh, you're right, man. You're right. Yeah, I mean, if your dog's, it's like a student of mine up in when I was up in Washington teaching a class last year. He had an encounter, he and his girlfriend, and he had a Connie Corso. I mean, that dog's like 180 pounds, just solid rock muscle. And he said that whenever they started hearing the calls out in the woods back and forth, on 100 yards out from either side of their camp, that dog peed down his leg, tail went between his legs, and the dog went in the tent and would not come out.
So that tells you right there. That's something that dog wanted no part of.
Yeah, it's time to get the hell up out of here is what time it is, and that's what they did. They listened. They looked at that dog and they're like, well, if he's seeing something that's wonky, we need to GTFO real quick, ASAFP. So
back when I was still single, me and a group of my buddies went down and camped in the Mark Twain, and during the night, something chased a pack of coyotes through our camp. Normally, coyotes won't come near you when you got a fire going. These things ran right through our camp, and they ran. What's the old expression Charlie Daniels said? They ran like their heads were on fire and their asses was catching.
Easy Rider. That's Easy Rider.
Yeah, I love that song.
Uneasy Rider.
Uneasy Rider. Those dogs were hauling butt. I'm not coyotes, not dogs. They were hauling butt, and they didn't slow down. They weren't the slightest bit worried about us. Something was on their heels, and they busted right through our camp.
Yeah.
but we never did see what was chasing them. But that entire night, it was just uneasy. Just an uneasy feeling in the air. It was dead quiet. The normal night sounds never did return that night. We didn't notice it never came back until dawn. And I slept with my holster on my chest and my hand on my pistol.
Yeah.
And I didn't go to bed. I didn't fall asleep until I was at the point where I was like, because
Yeah.
we were all like, something's wrong.
Brother, something was out there. I mean, if you got no night sounds and you got a pack of coyotes that's running from something, they typically don't run from. If they're packed up, they're not going to run from it unless you're shooting at them. And
Right.
So whatever they were running from was bigger and scarier than them. That's for sure.
Bigger and scarier than us.
Yeah.
There were 6 of us and we were all armed.
Yeah. Man, where was that, DA?
In the Mark Twain. I'd have to tell you where it's. I think the nearest town of any size would be Eminence, Missouri,
Okay.
but it was north of Eminence.
Okay. I still got to come out there, man. I got to get a class out there. So,
I've been after my old chief to get one.
well, ain't that only 2 things in the way is air and opportunity, you know?
I've been trying, man. I have been after his ass.
Robbie, you too.
Hey, I'm working on mine.
Good. I'm going to be teaching several law enforcement classes this year. One of the big ones is Harris County SWAT team. I got 22 members of their SWAT team coming to it's going to be a med and a live fire class. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So, yeah.
Matter of fact, my chief, I said something to my chief about it. He's got, I want to say $700 or $800 per officer that he's got free to do either personal or in the vehicle type things.
I will help him spend that money.
I'm sure you will. I told him, I said, hey, I know a guy.
I know a guy. No,
I know an old boy.
But DA, I'm gonna tell you, man, if you see something like that, just like these guys talking about if their dogs won't even go to the fence, there's something bigger and meaner and scarier out there. That's for sure.
David By says, Doc, did you ever get a Dart 2 class for Wichita?
No, David, I'm actually working on that with Andy and Don there at Rainier. I know we're going to be doing a TAC Med class and a regular Dart class this year. So get with me offline, David. You got my email, so get with me offline and we'll talk about that. Tomb, brother, I would love that. Just don't take me out there where I'm gonna get snake bit, because I'll
Is there anywhere in Australia you can go where you don't have a chance of getting snake bit?
I don't know.
Other than like 15 feet in the air?
I just don't want to go. Well, I will be 15 feet in the air then. So, yeah, Tomb, let me know, brother. I'd love to come down there. Down to Sydney, down to Adelaide. Yeah, I don't know, mate. What you reckon? Get some dimmies. So, yeah.
But back to the dog thing. Did you mention the Boggy Creek thing about the dogs yet?
No, it did not.
Oh,
no, go right ahead.
Okay, so since we're talking about dogs and them being scared, that's a perfect segue there, Doc. There's actually a segment in the movie where they bring in some pretty famous dogs from Tennessee and some dogs from around that area to go, and they organize this big hunt for the creature, and the dogs get there and they start walking down the road, going to where some of the places where they see where the thing's been sighted. Dogs catch the scent and just stop, tails between their legs, won't go in the woods, won't track or anything. Said these guys were so pissed off at their dogs, they all had to carry them all back to the trucks, but the dogs would not track. And these are like high dollar tracking dogs.
Like we were talking about the missing 411 cases.
Yep.
Robbie, you and I have both worked with police dogs that are trained to track people. When they do that, there's a problem, because those dogs cannot wait to get on the track. That's what they live for.
They live for that, man. And if a dog says, no, not today.
That truck's looking mighty good right now.
Yeah, you better be listening to your dog, because there's something out there that ain't
The dog go.
Yep. Look at the time. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. If a dog that's bred for hunting or bred for tracking, that's what they live for. And if they flat out refuse, you better be paying attention to them.
Yeah, that is no joke.
For sure.
Miss Lene says we have times about every 6 weeks when my dogs won't leave the porch after dark. Then you definitely got something big and nasty in your neighborhood.
There's
I've
a reason.
heard of Carillion bear dogs that would not go in the woods during time. These are bear dogs. What out there? If a dog is not scared to go fight a bear, what is out there that is scaring a dog like that?
It's bigger than a bear.
If it's trained to fight a bear, I'm pretty sure it's not scared of a guy listening to Fleetwood Mac and wearing a pair of Birkenstocks.
Exactly. It's bigger than a bear. I can guarantee you that, man. That's scary right there.
Yeah.
Maybe dogs just freak out when they smell patchouli.
Yeah, Inky, if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, I apologize, but has a question. Has that happened to any of you? Robbie, I mean, you work with tracking dogs all the time. Has that happened to you?
Well, that moss that I found that we thought was hair.
Mm-hmm.
I was telling DA, I let my boxer pit smell it. He went across the bed, would not come over near it. Now it turned out to not be hair. So, Normal's like, well, I can't understand if it wasn't. I said, that doesn't mean whatever was out there wasn't standing on.
Didn't get its scent on it.
And get it sent on this stuff. Bucky would not. And I'm going to tell you, that meathead ain't scared of nothing. And he put his nose in that bag and he turned tail and went over there on the other side of my bed and would not come near that bag.
I've never had a tracking dog do that. Granted, I've only done about half a dozen runs as a cop with them tracking somebody. For the most part, whenever somebody leaves a vehicle on foot and is running from the police, what we will do is we'll swarm the area and cordon that area off, and then the trackers will run around that area. I've only been running with the trackers a few times. Most of the times, whenever we've had a runner, I've been one of the cars on the outside of the perimeter watching for people moving. So yes, I have been part of multiple tracks. But I've never had a dog track do that. And most of mine have been in rural areas, not rural areas, in urban areas.
Yeah, and I ran tracks with my dog plenty of times, but I never had a situation where she wouldn't go in the woods.
Wow.
That. But I've heard plenty of situations like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
especially you list those missing 411 cases.
Yeah, I mean, I look at dogs, tracking dogs, military working dogs, whatever kind of dog they are, hunting dogs. They're your early warning system, man. They're your early warning system, and if you disregard what they're doing and you don't pick up on their cues, then you have no business working with a dog.
Oh yeah,
seriously.
Yeah. I mean, I've said it before. That's my trainer that trained me with my dog. Charlie beat that in my head from day one. Trust your dog. Trust your dog. Trust your dog. Trust your dog.
Yeah.
It's like I come home and go to bed and I'd hear "trust your dog" in my sleep, and I go, "Oh yeah, trust my dog."
Yeah. I mean, my buddy Trent was a dog handler on Team 7 and on multiple deployments, and he's like, "Dude, I'm gonna tell you this." He said, "My dogs," he said, "they saved my butt and my team's butt on many, many, many engagements." He said, and that's one thing he said we learned. You look at that dog's reaction to stuff, and if that dog sits down and ain't going any further, and you even give them the command to seek, then and they're like, "Yeah, no, I ain't about that right now." Well, you better be watching out.
Yeah, I got with Quinna. I could tell, 2 or 3 minutes before she was going to alert that she was going to alert, just because I could tell the way when she changed her body language.
Her cues.
Yeah.
You pick up on those cues. Yeah.
Going from that mouth closed and breathing in through her nose and putting her nose, things like I said, okay, she's an odor. But then you watch a little bit more and say, okay, well, it's a strong odor, or no, this is a residual type thing, because she smells it, but it ain't strong enough to really pique her interest
It
yet.
ain't there yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that there again, that's that trust in the dog and learning what your dog will do. And it's the same thing. You get out there in the woods, you're running a track, and your shepherds, Malinois, things like that, they're air trackers versus your bloodhounds or any of your hounds, which are ground trackers. They're going to give different visual cues, and they're going to act different. But once they catch odor of whatever it is they're after, or something out there that they don't want to be right, the visual cues are going to be the same.
Yeah.
Body language, the the behavior, demeanor, all that's going to change, and it's going to be roughly the same. They're going to go from, oh yeah, I'm having fun. This is what okay.
Yeah, time to go. Yeah, because Joseph Arnold, that comment that DA just put up, he said, his dogs were a pit mix, a Doberman, and a black and tan. And he said they weren't interested in going out at all that evening, which is not normal for those critters because they religiously patrol the perimeter. I mean, that's their area of operations, And if
what Dobermans were bred for, was patrol dogs.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And if they flat out refuse to patrol their area of operations, that's a huge cue that you better pick up on, that something is out there, just like Linnaeus dogs.
Yeah. Or like Eric Testament says, I always took notice when the rat dog wants to go out, and when we go to the door, he turns on like, nope, I'm crawling back into the covers. Yeah. Figured something was out there. Yeah. You're probably right on that. I would say you're absolutely right on that.
Well, I mean, we were watching our grand dog. That's what we call him. Our grand dog, Chester. He's a little Dotson Beagle mix, sweet little dog. And if and he'll go out whenever him and Ranger will go out. But if Chester, if there's coyotes out in the backfield, Chester's like, nah, I'm going to pee in the house tonight. Ranger's like, whatever, bring it, man. Cause Ranger's a 110-pound shepherd. He's like, whatever, I'm fine with that.
If you're a small dog, coyotes are extremely intimidating.
Exactly. So Chester,
they do take small animals all the time.
Yeah,
absolutely. Cats, dogs.
Yeah, I mean, Chester's knee high to a grasshopper too. So I mean, he's a little bitty. He's a little popcorn fart dog. So I mean, he's not big at all. And so he smells them or hears them. He's like, nah, I ain't going out. So listen to your dogs, man. I mean, that's if you've got dogs, that's a great indicator for sure.
And there's also, I've heard a few stories like this, but it seems like that creature really did not like dogs, because there were several dogs in that film that he went, one for sure that he killed, and several more that he almost did or went after. Because that one guy I was talking about, he said, that was the best dog I ever had. He killed the best dog I ever had, and I'm going to get him one of these days.
Yeah, well, I mean, how many encounters you've ever heard of with hunters who have had encounters with the critters out in the woods that have lost hunting dogs to them?
Yeah.
Happens. It's happened. There's encounters of it, and they're like, the dogs, they'd hear a dog yelp, and that dog's done. It's meat.
Yeah. There's been stories. There was a story, I can't remember where it was from. I want to say it was in the Pacific Northwest somewhere. People let their dog out one night, and they heard it yelp, and then they heard something thump up the side of the cabin, and they went out when they went out there with flashlights and guns, they found that their dog had been literally crushed against the side of the log cabin. Looked like every bone in its body had been broken.
Good Lord.
Well, think about the way Cam wrote the first Steve Lilly's first encounter with a Bigfoot. That's why Steve Lilly went on the rampage of killing squatches, is because they killed his dog.
He John Wicked them. He John Wicked them, Sons of Guns. That's for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, listen to your dog, man. Listen to your dog. Cats, not so much. But if anybody's out there a cat person, I'm sorry, I apologize. But yeah, I mean, my daughter has a cat, but dogs have people and cats have staff. So that's Yeah.
I'm with you, Doc. I'm not a cat person.
I was
I mean,
aggravating Annette the other night. I told her, I said, you know why dogs are man's best friend? She's like, why? I said, well, we can do an experiment and I'll show you. She's like, what do you mean? I said, I'll lock you and a dog in the trunk of the car and come
Yes.
back in 6 hours and see which one of you's happy to see me.
That's right. That's right. I told that to Angie, and Angie's like, I just stabbed you. I said, see, you just proved my theory right there.
Dog will be happy to see you.
Now, and cats, Meg, I'm just picking. Cats are very smart, and they'll hear stuff. I mean, they can hear a mouse fart at 500 yards. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
so
Well, they're little predators.
they're little predators, man. But
Yeah.
but the cats are not your average watchdog. You know, they're not your early warning system. Like we know, they're not as vocal in some aspects, for sure.
And two, a cat's not going to care or warn you if they see danger. A dog will do what it can to warn you and let you know, hey, come on, come on.
The cat's going to hear something and go, yeah. So good luck with that. I'm going to be up here. Remember to bring me my food like in 2 hours. You know, the dog's going to be losing its freaking mind. So I'm just saying. I'm just picking.
But I mean, yeah, it's true. You know, cat's not going to go out of his way to be your early warning.
That's
but
right.
How many stories do you hear of dogs waking people up when their house is on fire?
There's a fire and things like that.
Absolutely.
I don't know too many stories with cats doing that.
If I upset any cat people, I apologize. I'm just funny.
I don't hate cats. I'm a dog person. I'm just saying I've never heard that. I
love cats. I love cats. They taste just like chicken. But no. I mean, I grew up with barn cats and farm cats, and so no, I love cats. But they each serve a purpose. Is all I'm saying. Mm-hmm. They each serve a purpose for sure.
Like DA said, cats are predators. You know, if you got a good house cat, you're not going to have mice in your house. Plain and simple. They're going to keep it. And good thing for you, Doc. If you don't have mice in your house, guess what else you're not going to have in your house?
Snakes.
There you go.
See, it's all symbiosis, man. It's all symbiosis.
There we go. If we ever get a chance to go down and like rent that cabin down in Fouke, I would really like to. It's something I would like to explore, is look for these not only edible plants but medicinal plants, because there's got to be something that keeps them in the area, and it's not just food. You know, there's got to be. It's that big circle. Are there medicinal plants in the area? Are there edible plants in the area? Is there plenty of game in the area? Is there fresh water? All of these criteria have got to be met for it to be a good habitat. Like I was saying, if you just got running water and nothing else, you're probably not going to have any Bigfoot or even dogman activity in the area because there's no prey. These big predators go where the prey is. They follow the food. So for over 100 years of sightings in this one small area, there's got to be something keeping them close.
Yeah, yep. I'll bring some of my flora books, DA, some of my herbal books. It's got the pictures, and I've got an app on my phone that you can actually take a picture of it. If we've got good service, it'll actually tell you, hey, this is what this is what it's good for, if it's bad, if it's good, whatever. So I'll bring that. I'll bring that with us.
Well,
absolutely.
Look at what you said, DA. There's got to be a reason, and I think it's a multiple. You know, it's twofold, or maybe even more. Like where I'm at right now used to be nothing but my family's land at all. Now there's trailers and houses and that creek and that swampy area is gone. It's there's houses that people built back there. You said it yourself when you drove through Fouke, it's still pretty much as unpopulated, I guess, is the best. There's still not a lot of people who have moved into there and developed that place in the last 100 years. So it's still remote. It's still got a lot of places where something like this could hide. So it's probably food too, but it's probably sanctuary.
Yeah. Doc, Growing Old with Purpose wants to know what that app is.
I'm looking it up right now on my phone. I'll be right with him. Let me get it on my phone. Hell, I can't see anything. Let me put my glasses on. My arms are too short.
Well, Robert D says, I've heard of the rule of water by you around at least 500 yards. You might have the big boys around you.
Let me pull my app up here.
Shane is unfortunately a horse person, he said. Y'all see that?
I saw that.
Well, nothing wrong with that.
No. Hey, a horse is a good early warning device, too.
Yeah, horses will definitely let you know when there's something bad in the area. They might let you know by turning and bolting and taking you with them,
or kicking you off their back and taking off and leaving you there.
It's called Plant ID. PLANT ID. Yeah, Plant.
Is that a free app or is it something you have to buy?
It's a free app.
I will have to get that.
Yeah, it's pretty freaking cool, man. Yeah, because Angie turned me on to it because I was like, I wonder what that plant is, and she's like whipped her phone out and and she's like, oh, it's such and such, and it does this, this, and this, and it's good for this, and yada yada. I was like, that's freaking cool. So yeah, so Plant ID.
I will download that here shortly.
Yeah, it's pretty rad, man.
Bigfoot's got to survive by the same rules we do. Now, granted, its biology might give it a little more time than us, but it's just remember the rule of 3. You could survive 3 minutes without air or in icy water. What the heck happened to the screen?
I have no idea.
There we go. 3 hours without shelter in a harsh environment, unless you're in icy water. You can survive 3 days without water, or 3 weeks without food. And those are just basic rules. Those criteria got to be met for Bigfoot just like they would for us. If you can't be sustained, if a human can't be sustained in an area, then odds are good a Bigfoot can't either.
Right. I mean, because we've talked about this too in the past, DA and Robbie, is look at their caloric requirements.
Yep.
If it cannot sustain their caloric requirements that which is far greater than ours, then they're going to be out. They're done.
If I lived in an environment like that, like a survival situation where I had to live in a setting like that, I don't think I would be a meal eater. I wouldn't set down for planned meals. I'd be a browser. I would if I walk by bush berries, grab me a handful. If I see a rhubarb plant, pick me a piece.
Yeah, you're going to be a grazer, man, and that's it. You're going to be kind of grazing all throughout the area. I mean, it's opportunistic, grazing. Yeah.
Well, liken that to sharks swimming around an ocean. That's why all sharks are opportunistic feeders, because Absolutely. You never know when your next meal is going to come. So they're going to take the chance to eat whenever the opportunity arises or presents itself. Well, lions out in the Sahara, they're going to do the same thing.
They don't know when they're going to get their next food intake.
Yeah.
Robert D's got a good point. He said, if we go by 2,000 for our food intake, how much more would they need? 10,000? Yeah, something that big is going to have a tremendous caloric need.
Well, most of your top
especially the colder it gets.
Most of your top strongmen do 10,000 plus calories a day. Brian Shaw does 15,000 calories a day.
Yeah, Michael Phelps was doing upwards of 10,000 calories a day. The Olympic swimmer. So that's an average human, 10,000 calories a day, and this dude
for peak performance.
And this dude's still like 5% body fat. And so let's look at if you think about that at let's say a 1,200 pound animal,
roughly
1,200, 800 to 1,200 pounds. That's 40, 50,000, 60,000 calories a day.
Well, you've also got to look at things that it could be eating that we wouldn't normally consider. The budding tips of trees have a high calorie value.
Yeah.
Certain barks are edible. Pine needles. Pine needles are not only not only edible under certain circumstances, but they make a freaking fantastic healthful tea. There are a lot of things that we just take for granted around us that could be a food source that we've got to consider.
Right, grubs. I mean,
bugs are high in protein.
Huge,
slimy yet satisfying.
Yeah, I mean, I've eaten grubs in survival school. Actually, not that bad. Gross when they kind of when they pop in your mouth, but it's like but it tasted almost like cashews, like a roasted cashew. So yeah, but huge fat and protein content.
Well, you got to think like scorpions. Scorpions are basically just land-dwelling freaking crawdads.
Yeah.
They'll sting. Granted, they'll sting you, but there's got to be a high protein value there.
They're land crustaceans, literally.
Yep.
Yeah. I'd eat one.
Them crusty crabs.
I mean, I've eaten
earthworms. Starving or eating a scorpion. Yeah. I'd probably take one of my scallywag knives and lop that tail off and give them a crunch.
I mean, I've eaten earthworms and ants and crickets and.
I've eaten ants. I've eaten crickets.
Grubs.
Not earthworms though.
Yeah, they taste like dirt.
But the thing is where you draw the line of things you will eat shifts dramatically in survival situations.
Well, yeah, and like Robbie just said, he said these dudes are like they're like the premier survivalists.
Mm-hmm.
They have perfected that stuff to an art. If we could ghost one and follow it around and watch what it does and watch how it survives every day, dude, that would be an education worthy of a doctoral degree.
Oh yeah. Just like a freaking doctorate program in survival and sustainability.
Man. Just watch
because they've got to know that they can't go into an area and eat everything that's edible, because then there's nothing left. That's why I think these things are constantly on the move. I don't necessarily think they're migratory, but look at a mountain lion. A mountain lion's got a 250 to 300 mile range.
Right.
If that's up for a mountain lion,
yeah.
What is a family group of Sasquatch going to have? It might be more than 1,000 miles.
Oh, I say 1,500 easy.
Yeah, I would agree with that because like you just said, they don't want to deplete every resource in that area. Right. I mean, they're smart enough to know. They've evolved enough to know that they don't want to deplete every resource in that area.
By the time you make that circuit, things are replenishing wherever that circuit is. And you got to know that kind of stuff. I mean,
and therein lies the migratory patterns we've talked about on other shows.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I don't necessarily think it's so much a migratory pattern as just their range. That's why if you look at the sightings in one particular area, they're generally clustered around one time of the year. It might be the fall in one area, it might be the spring in another area, but you get the bulk of the sightings in one location. They're generally within a few months of each other. They're in generally one time of the year.
Look at the Lakota and the Cheyenne. I'm sorry, Robbie, I didn't mean to overtalk you.
No, that's good. I was just going to say, or it may not be necessarily they're migrating, but they're following migratory patterns of prey animals
of their food source. And which lends me to what I was just going to say is look at the Lakota, look at the Cheyenne, look at the Plains Indians. They followed the
buffalo
patterns of the animals that were their food source. So I mean,
we talked about that with the dogman, like the Beast of Bray Road. You'll see sightings spike during certain times of the year, and then they'll fall off, and then they'll spike again during that same time of year. They're probably following the patterns of their prey.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Good night, Martin. Thanks for coming on, man. Good to have another Mississippi boy on here.
Good night, Martin. I put it in the chat. Good to meet you, cousin. It's possible. One branch of the Roberts family, my family came from near, like I was saying, Valdeston, Georgia.
Y'all might be from the same set of dogs, as my granddaddy used to say.
At some point down the line.
Creek Ken.
There we go.
Hey, I'm going to throw this out there real quick. We got 167 people viewing right now and 25 thumbs up and loves on us. And we appreciate
there's 116 on the YouTube channel.
But if y'all are loving what you're hearing and loving what you're seeing, hit that like and subscribe button, because that is hugely important to us, and it helps us keep growing. It helps us get that information out there to folks, because one thing that DA has always said, and we've all said this, we have theories. We don't prescribe to be experts in anything other than we are expertly continually researching everything to make sure that we have the most up-to-date data on stuff and theories on things. So let's y'all keep on liking, subscribing, and hanging out with us. And we're going to continue to grow, and just grow with us in this, with this DAX machination.
Absolutely. Thanks, Doc.
You're welcome, brother.
Yeah, we've got 125 likes now on the page. It jumped by 9 just while you were talking.
See?
So heck yeah.
He's eloquent. What do you got to say? I mean,
It's hard to say no to Doc.
he's well spoken.
We're going to talk about the strategery of our defensification.
What we gonna do is,
Yeah. Oh man. No, but we love talking about this stuff. And if y'all can't tell we don't love talking about this stuff, then you're not paying attention. Like my daddy used to say, if that don't light your fire, your wood's wet. So, just keep listening to us and growing with us, because we love what we do, and we love having the interaction. That's the thing about it. The interaction with y'all in the chat, that's what keeps us going.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Because I mean, the questions y'all give us, we react to that. And if we miss
great comments,
in the comments, if we miss your comment or your question, then we apologize. We're not trying to, but there's a lot of stuff coming in. So if we don't hit it the first time, throw it up again.
Hit it again.
And our moderators are doing a great job of hitting those up for us and reminding us, hey, such and such had a great question. So y'all don't give up hope, and don't get you pee hot about it. We'll try to get to it, and we'll get it answered as best we can.
If you all don't mind, at the beginning of a question, in all caps, write the word question, and then just ask your question like normal, but put question on all caps at the beginning, and it'll help us spot it.
Yep.
But sometimes, especially on nights like this when we got a lot of folks in the chat, in the live, comments go by pretty quick. So sometimes we miss them.
Absolutely. Whew.
But back to Boggy Creek, it's kind of an anomaly as far as the other things we're talking about, because the sightings stay constant throughout the year and throughout the 100-year period. So there's something there that's keeping them there, or keeping.
It's got to be an abundant food source.
Sanctuary food source.
Weather's good. I mean, even the wintertime, it doesn't get real cold.
Yeah, so there is something
That's
about
southern Arkansas. I mean, that is right there on the Arkansas, Texas, Louisiana border.
And that whole surrounding area that is very conducive to what they need and what they want.
Yeah.
So I think that's, you got other places probably that are like that, but they're not as advertised, I guess, is the best, because everybody, it's like everybody knows Bluff Creek because of Patterson Gimlin. Everybody knows Fouke, Arkansas because of Boggy Creek. Everybody knows Skookum because of the famous cast up there, or Snow. You got your certain areas and hot spots, but Fouke and Boggy Creek, if you start really looking into it and digging into it, there's never a drop off as far as whatever time.
The sightings come in at all times of the year.
Yeah, it's never like it's always in this part of the year, and then there's, it's all throughout the year.
Which, to me, like I said, if we can get a group of us to get one of them cabins down there, one of the things I want to do at night when we're sleeping is hang a digital recorder outside.
Ooh.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just let it play. Yeah, it might take us a while to go through all of it, but if we pick up good vocalizations, then we'll just crop that piece out. It's not like we're going to post, 8 to 10 hours of audio recording, but we will have to go through it and look to see if we captured any any
Heck yeah, man.
audio. But I think that, especially at night, because a lot of people say while they're sleeping, they hear them walking around their cabins or slapping the side. If we could record that, I think putting out trail cameras with IR signatures is a bad idea. I don't think we're going to get anything that's got an active IR, because I think they can see it. So that's just kind of my ideas of things I want to do.
I still think we need to. We talked about this. I think it was the three of us that talked about this one time. Getting a trail cam that doesn't have an IR signature and building a wooden box around it and making it look more. I think we need to really
make it not smell like plastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking about that, and I think there are ways to insulate the camera on the inside of the box. You're not going to be able to completely. It's just like, I used to do demonstrations with my dog, and I took just a small roach that I'd got off somebody, and got one of them big coffee cans full of coffee, and I put that thing in a plastic bag and put it down in the bottom of that coffee can, and I had 4 or 5 of those coffee cans out there, and I would have somebody else set the coffee can so I wouldn't know which one it was, and she would hit on the right one every time.
Yeah.
So you're not going to take the smell away from an animal that does, but you can reduce it enough, I think, to where it's not quite as, glaring.
Our roulette says, do you have a plan for one of those Fouke monsters crawls into your tent? That's called mag dump.
Mag dump. That's exactly what I put in the comments. I was like, yeah, mag dump.
I was just thinking, Robbie, what if we took, for those plastic housings, if we're going to put it inside a wood housing, what if we took pine pitch and watered it down and brushed it on there?
That's an idea.
As long as it's on a pine tree, yeah.
Yeah.
It should be plenty of pine in the area. Yeah. And look at the types of pine that are indigenous to the area, and use pine oil specifically from there. Yeah, pine oil. There we go. Just brush it with pine oil.
Yeah. No, absolutely, man.
And build the box out of the whatever type of pine that we're gonna.
Right. If it's going to be in an area where there's no white oak, you don't want to build it out of white oak.
Exactly. Kind of try to make it as indigenous as possible.
You wouldn't want to put a ceder box on a pine tree.
Correct.
Pine forest.
And throw pine boughs around it, to camouflage it, kind of like what a sniper does with their ghillie. They use the indigenous flora to camouflage their presence. So.
I think that's a much more logical approach. I don't think the people that are putting out trail cams. One, if they get anything at all on the trail cam, it's something messing with it, or they just get something that's a fleeting glimpse. I don't think we should use anything that's got an IR signature, and I think we should go as far as we possibly can to make it smell like it's part of the actual surroundings.
Well, that's
pine oil, anything like that.
The drone I'm going to have it's got thermal. It has IR lights, but that's at 400 feet.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see it on nods, but if they're looking up, they could see it, but you can always shut the IR lights off too.
Yeah.
So
that would be something else that'd be awesome to do if we got that cabin right there on Boggy Creek, is just send that drone out over the swamp. Just send it, have it recording on as much time as we can record it. Just fly it around, recording everything, bring it back, study the footage.
Okay.
Because those drones are pretty quiet.
Well, and the fact that we're going to have 2 at least, if not 3 drones.
Yeah.
We could cover way more ground, because I got mine. If you get that one, the other one I sent you figured out, then Doc's got his. That's a lot of area. I've got at least close to 30 minutes of flight time on mine. What you got on yours, Doc?
Mine's going to be 30 minutes, and I'm going to have 4 extra batteries. And then once it comes back home, we throw it on a fast charger, and it freaking charges it up.
Well, I've got 2 30-minute batteries, and DA, I think you got 2. I think you got a total of 40 minutes flight time on both those. If both of those batteries that you got on that one are charged up.
Robert, so he's got a good comment. He says trail cams. The problem is they might be watching you put it up or smell you around it. That's another good point. You know, put scent, your the scent eliminators.
Yep.
Yeah, like when you go hunting. There you go. And make sure you're wearing gloves.
You know, I used to and I don't know what happened to it.
Duke was just talking to one of the crab trees. That is awesome, man.
That's pretty awesome. But I used to have one of those charcoal suits that I used to wear underneath my hunting overalls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, same.
But I don't know. It wouldn't fit me anymore because I'm a lot bigger than it was last time I had that thing on.
I think I've got a mop suit. I can. It's in one of my deployment bags. I could pull that charcoal suit out, and we could put some cams up with that.
Growing old with purpose says, question, won't drones keep them away too? We don't know. It's one of those things that we're going to try it. It's much like anything you do in whether it's research for a book, whether it's research for cryptids, or it's a business model. You try something. If it doesn't work, you don't do it again.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know. I mean, because if you got a drone at 400-foot orbit, I mean, these dudes, these cats probably have. I mean, we assume they have highly attuned senses of hearing, because they're like some apex predators. So they could probably hear that sucker up there easy,
Yeah.
But it's fact
whether or not they would know what it is the question.
Right.
Like I said, if we try the drone 4 or 5 times and we get 0 results each time, maybe it's time to try a different tool.
Right.
And that's why I want to go down there with multiple tools in our tool bag.
Yeah, absolutely.
Robert D says they have been seen a couple of times on drones.
Yes, they have.
And the thing is, if we've got 3 drones up in the air, all going different directions, the likelihood of them being able to get away from 3 cameras in 3 different directions is a lot lower than if there's just one up flying around. Okay, it's over there. I'm going over here.
Yeah,
well, it is there, but
I'll have a thermal optic that we can record off of. I can slave it to my phone, so we can record off of that via Bluetooth. So I'll have a thermal optic, and I'll have a set of nods, plus I'll have an extra set of nods too. So we'll have 2 sets of nods as well. So, and we just won't turn the IR on the nods. So,
now, I think
Karen. Thank you.
Good night, Karen. I think we try multiple different tacks. I think we're bound to get something.
Yep.
I'm not saying whether we would get the smoking gun footage, but we might get something interesting.
No, it's just like trot lining, man.
And I'm not going out there to prove or disprove anything. I know what's out there. From experiences and my own research, I believe it's out there. I mean, I don't have to just believe it. I've got enough experience under my belt to say there's definitely something out there. The thing is I want to get something tangible that we can share here, that we can talk about. I'm not trying to prove it to the government. I'm not trying to prove it to the world. I just want to find something that I can share with y'all.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Again, we're not experts. We're just trying to work on those theories that are out there.
Doyle Thorne says hanging a dead box on a live tree may be a beacon. True. That's something we're going to look at when we start trying to build some of these boxes. It's something we definitely want to improve on the idea of just that base plastic. So that's something we're going to explore as we try to build it. I picked up a couple of new subs, Old Scout 7 and Derek Ning. Just subscribe to the channel, folks. Thanks for the subscription and welcome to the DAX Machina Nation. I was just clicking on that too, man. Sorry.
Yeah.
Growing Old with Purpose says, has any helicopter pilot or fixed plane pilot ever seen a Sasquatch? Lots of stories coming from pilots.
And
oddly enough, train conductors.
Yeah. My buddy Trevor is a conductor. He lives in Texas, but he works out of Jackson, Mississippi. And so he works trains from Jackson over to Texas, all through Louisiana. And he has seen things crossing the tracks in front of him at nighttime.
Well, and we've talked about this with Dogman and Bigfoot. You know, train tracks being a very good
Like the
highway.
highways and power lines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like a waterway, man. It's just like a waterway. Absolutely.
Well, you're walking through the woods. What's going to be easier for you to walk in? Tangled undergrowth or a game trail? It's logical that these things are going to take the path of least resistance because it requires the least amount of energy output. Because again, they're going to have to be fairly constant eaters to maintain that body mass and live in that environment. So they are going to take the path that requires the least amount of effort, unless they're trying to get away from something.
Yep, 100%. 100%. Man.
Robert D says, how many trains with the cams on them have filmed them? That is something I couldn't tell you because every contact I've ever had at the railroad said it's not something they're allowed to talk about.
Yep.
I would assume most trains have some sort of camera on them, probably looking for obstructions on the track or anybody that's messing around trying to do something to the track, because that's a great way of prosecuting somebody if they're deliberately trying to derail a track. So I would say most, if not all, trains have some sort of recording system. Just getting something out of the Burlington Northern. I tried. I got a few guys who would tell me what they'd seen, but they wouldn't go on record. Didn't want their name mentioned, but they could not provide any imagery or anything like that. They said it's just something they are not allowed to do.
Yep.
Duke over at World Bigfoot says that's why they usually ambush hunt. Takes energy to chase down prey. And it's all about that risk benefit analysis that you got to look at when you're hunting in the wild. Will it hurt you? Can you afford to can you afford to take the damage that meal is going to be worth? It's going to hunt something that is going to require the least amount of effort and least expenditure of energy.
Well, look at other predators. That's why lions will typically go after something bigger that can be more dangerous because there's multiple that hunt.
Right.
Tigers are not going to go after something like that because they're solitary, and if they get hurt, that's it. So, tigers are probably some of the best ambush hunters in the world. Lions, to a degree, I guess, would be ambush hunters, but for the most part, they're running their prey down. They'll sneak up to a certain point, and then it's a foot race. Leopards, tigers, crocodiles and alligators, all those things are ambush hunters because it requires the least amount of energy and gives them the most opportunity to quickly, and that's the caveat, being quickly and successfully subdue that prey item.
Well, like you were saying, your buddy that hunts alligators in South Carolina, they had a 10-footer in less than 3 feet of water and never saw it. That's a big crocodile. That is a lot of angry crocodile, or an alligator in that case.
10 foot, 510 pounds, I think he said. Over 500 pounds.
That's a big animal to hide in 3 feet of water.
Less than 3 feet of water. I think he said it was right around 2 feet of water.
Jeez,
that's
Louise.
Not very deep. 24 inches of water. You got a 10 foot, 500 pound alligator.
That means with it laying on the bottom, it probably had less than a foot of water over its back.
Yeah, and they never saw it until I guess it surfaced, and then they got it, and then when they got it out of the water, they realized how big it was. If you want to hear Lance tell that story, it's on our the lizard man story that we did on What's Really Out There.
Or Swamp. Yeah, I remember I remember watching that episode. It's a great episode. Duke over at World Bigfoot says, good point. And pack hunters are way more dangerous. Multiple problems to deal with. Sasquatch will get one to chase the prey past the blind that the actual hunter is waiting in. Yeah, I've heard about hunting blinds being found right along game trails, where they would chase prey down this game trail, and one of them would just reach out and either snap a leg or grab it by the head or whatever. So that's just look like at primitive cavemen. Cavemen used to drive them off cliffs.
Yeah, I mean that's a drive hunt. That's what that is. That's how you hunt deer as with a drive hunt. You know, whoever is going to be the shooter is stationed in one specific place, and then you got the dogs and the other hunters that are driving the deer. And it gets to that certain point, and it's right there in front of the shooter, and the shooter pops it. I mean, if we can do that, wolves will do that.
Yeah.
Wolves will push an animal towards an ambush.
Yeah. Wolves are very smart hunters. Pack hunters are like that. Lions
Killer
are
whales
like
will
that.
hunt like that.
Killer whales are brilliant, especially when it comes to hunting techniques. They're human level intelligence. I mean, they're very intelligent creatures.
And they will come up with new hunting techniques. Just like, have you seen the video with the seal that's on the ice floe?
Mm-hmm.
And they swim up to it and use the wave, to wash the seal off the. There's another killer whale waiting on the other side, and they'll wash it off the ice floe. I mean, that right there, if that doesn't prove how intelligent animals can be, you just need to go home.
Yeah.
Robert D says killer whales have killed great white sharks. They will push them over onto their back, and they just go dormant, and then they will bite they know exactly where to hit. The only spot they will eat on a great white is the liver. They go after the liver for some reason.
A nice bottle of fava and Chianti beans.
Yeah.
And some fava beans.
And some fava beans. Now there was two. I love this story. There were two killer whales in Hans Bay, South Africa. They were called port and starboard. They're two rogue males, and they were called port and starboard because one fin laid to the left and one fin laid to the right. So they called them port and starboard. They almost single-handedly shut that town down because that town was a shark cage diving town. That's how that town made its money. It was a tourist attraction, and they killed or ran off every great white in that area, and almost pretty much killed that town because they killed all those great white sharks. They would have there was like Allison Towner is one of the biologists that was spearheading the study on this, and there was like 50 to 60 sharks that were washed up on the shore.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing was missing their liver. And they finally started slowly coming back, and the town's finally starting to come back around. But there was a while there they thought that town was going to go completely under because it didn't have anything else that was supporting it other than the cage diving.
Yeah.
And that was two killer whales that was decimating.
That's the funny thing about killer whales is they're actually not a whale. They're the largest species of dolphin.
Orca or Orquinus.
They're gangster dolphins.
Yep.
The dolphins.
Well, you know what and I think it was the Inuits that used to say, but some they called them the wolves of the sea.
Yeah.
Because they swim in packs.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And there's been plenty of videos about it, but most people call that movie Orca. They call that the greatest Jaws ripoff that gets zero credit because it capitalized on the creature feature. If you look at the movie Grizzly, that is almost a shot for shot ripoff of Jaws.
Right.
That's Jaws on land is all that movie is. Orca is totally different. If you watch it, and I know you've seen it, DA. Have you seen it, Doc?
Great movie. Have you read the book?
I haven't read the book. I haven't been able to find it.
The book is really good.
Well, that's usually how it goes. But there are so many more nuances in that story that are just completely, totally different from Jaws. It obviously we know it capitalized on that whole killer animal genre that came around from Jaws. But that is a really good movie. It had
a good movie.
Really good actors. Richard Harris is awesome in that movie.
Richard Harris is awesome in pretty much everything he was in.
Yeah, true. But he the way he played that character, because at first you hated him, and then he made you like him towards the end of it, and then, or towards the middle of the end, starting of the third act, and then you kind of like didn't know whether you really liked him or you didn't like him right there at the very end.
Duke's got a good point. Night of the Grizzly is a good freaking movie. And
yes,
that
movie, with Clint
Walker
is very good.
Night of the Grizzly, if I remember correctly, that's the scene where it took the head of a horse off with one swipe, right?
No, Grizzly did that. That's where
okay. I'm thinking
Night
of the wrong movie.
Clint Walker, him and James Arnest and John Wayne were all good friends. They're all, 6'4" plus. They all played in them old westerns. Clint Walker, I can't remember the show that he was on. It was James Arnest was Matt Dillon on Gunsmoke, and Clint Walker I think was Cheyenne. That was who Clint Walker. That was his claim to fame. But he was in that other western, Night of the Grizzly, and that's where he actually fights that bear hand to hand. They're up on a ridge at the end of the movie, and he goes and fights the grizzly hand to hand. It's a pretty dang good movie.
I'm gonna say pass on that.
Yeah. Well,
I'm not fighting a grizzly hand to hand unless it's to avoid going down its gullet.
Well, Clint actually beat him, but obviously it's a movie. But yes, that's a really good movie. It's not.
It's like that salmon commercial where the bear's like,
yeah,
the guy kicks him in the nuts.
An eagle.
Kicks him in the nuts and runs off with his salmon.
But yes, Grizzly's the one where the guy's trailing the deer behind him, and he's looking back, and all of a sudden he runs into the grizzly, and it swipes the horse's head off with one swipe. But they called it a grizzly, or said the name was Grizzly, but they actually in the movie said that it was. I think I want to say they were saying it was a short-faced bear, because they said it was like 15 feet tall on its hind when it stood up on its hind.
Yeah, that would be a massive grizzly.
But that's, like I said, it's a shot-for-shot rip-off of Jaws, but it's not a bad movie. I mean, it's got its corny moments, but it's actually a pretty good movie.
Not bad.
Now, the second one, I don't recommend watching.
I'm sorry, y'all. I had to chase down a geriatric German Shepherd. So
no problem, brother. Well, boys, we are rapidly approaching the 3-hour mark. We're probably going to start wrapping things up. We'll start the beginnings of the Ozarks. Good night. Jumping back over to the Boggy Creek creature for a minute. That's something that we want to look into. Look at the food sources. Look at the medicinal plant sources. There's got to be a factor that's keeping them in that area. And as we study these behaviors, as we learn more about them, and I know it's held true across the Ozarks from people I've talked to, that some of these archways that are made from trees, they'll bend a sapling over and attach it to like another sapling to build these archways. These are popping up near plentiful areas of medicinal plants. Don't know if that's something that's considered a established fact across the board, but it's something that researchers are noticing here in Missouri. A lot of the guys I talked to hadn't put 2 and 2 together until I mentioned it. I'm like, hey, I got a guy who's finding this on his land. Are you guys seeing that? They're like, wait, let me check. And then a day or two later, I'd get an email back like, hey, you hit that on the head. Where we're finding these arch saplings, we're also finding a lot of these medicinal plants. So maybe we're looking at them marking some type of Bigfoot pharmacy. Native Americans relied on a lot of these plants, and I'm sure Bigfoot does as well. I want to say a big welcome to all the new folks we've seen tonight. We had a lot of new names in the chat. Quite a few subscribers jumped in tonight, and I want to thank each and every one of them. Welcome to the DAX Machina Nation. Hope you guys will join us again because we have a good time. I've said it many times, and I will continue to say it for as long as I can. We don't have fans, we have friends. We have a fantastic time hanging out with y'all. I love hanging out with Doc and Robbie and Anthony when he's here, and Steve when he could be here. I mean, I just have a good time hanging out with my friends, and we discuss these topics that we give as much insight as we have. We're not trying to pass ourselves off as experts in this. There are no experts in this field, and anybody that says they are is selling you something. we don't claim to be experts, but we are giving you the benefit of what we've observed. And by sharing these ideas and you guys talking about the experiences of your own, and each of us, swapping ideas, we're starting to develop an idea on certain patterns. Now, will they hold true across the country? I don't know. But we are noticing certain similarities, and it's these theories we want to put to the test in the field. So look for videos of us doing that in the near future. We're also looking at shooting our first documentary sometime this year. So kind of bear with us as that happens, because it's none of us have ever done something like that. It's going to be a big project, but I think we can handle it. Also, if those of you who have been asking about new books, I should have the next installment of Codename Wild Hunt coming out in the next few days. I've had some issues with Amazon getting it released. It's been uploaded and pending approval by Amazon for a week now. So it should have already been released, but I don't know what's taken Amazon so long. Been talking back and forth with their customer service. So hopefully we'll have that. And they're saying probably in the next 48 hours. So keep my fingers crossed we finally get that book released and get it out to y'all. Billy Mitchum says, question, what about Daniel Boone? Didn't he fight off a Sasquatch? The only one I recall off the top of my head of Daniel Boone was the rumor of him killing an Ozarks howler. But I will look into that. It's something that we can look up at a future date. But we are starting to wind things up. Don't forget to check out Robbie's channel. Robbie, go ahead and plug it away there.
What's really out there? It's kind of like I like to say, and Doc loves to laugh at this one. We're DAX Machina light. We same stuff that we get in depth in on here in the live show. We kind of just focus on a real smaller area, like 15 to 40 minutes worth of show. Myself, Norm, Johnny. We've got 2 more shows we're working on getting out now. One of them will be Movie Monsters, and the other will be the South Carolina Boo Hag. Then our next show we're going to be recording is going to be on the Rougarou. And Norm had a UFO sighting somewhere. I can't remember where. I don't remember where it was at, but we're going to be talking about that on another show. We record them on Tuesday nights, and I usually try to get them set the release on Friday mornings and Monday mornings at 8 a.m. And it's on Spreaker, iHeart, YouTube. We have a Facebook channel or a Facebook page, What's Really Out There. Email is what's really out there 2022@gmail.com. If you got any stories you want us to look into or read on the air, like I said, DAX Machina light. So we just do the little small stuff here and there that, little interesting stories, little tidbits. And that's about it on that one.
Did they get the link? Yeah, the link is up there.
Toom's been putting it out, and I think
Toom's awesome. Toom and Meg are all over that, and Miss Lene too. Lost my train of thought. Went off the rails. What's that?
It's gone.
Uskabetha.
Skaboot.
World Bigfoot says Davy Crockett claims to have run into one in Texas. Duke, my email's on the bottom of the screen. Shoot me an email. Let's get together and chat. I also want to talk to you about getting you on the show. So folks, Duke, you definitely do. Please reach out to me. I want to talk to you about cross promoting one another and getting you on the show. So shoot me an email when you get a chance. Folks, I've said it many times. We don't have fans. We have friends. We really enjoy hanging out and talking with y'all. We have a really good time doing this, and we're noticing that the channel is really starting to grow. We've in the last few months, we've experienced quite a bit of growth. The channel's not even 2 years old yet. We're coming up on that 2-year anniversary. Be the first part of May. The show will be 2 years old. And it took us more than the first year to hit 1,000, and we are within spitting distance of 4,000 now. So our next big celebration will be at the 5,000 mark. We're planning something big, for when we hit 5,000. So if you guys don't mind, like, share, and subscribe, share the channel. I encourage people that enjoy this kind of content, and we're going to do a pretty impressive giveaway when we hit the 5,000 mark. We do, for those of you who are new to the channel, we do live shows every Wednesday and Saturday night at 8 p.m. Central Time. That's 9 p.m. Eastern Time, and what would that be? 6 p.m. on the West Coast, I believe so.
8
p.m. my time, it'd be 6 p.m. on the West Coast. So you mark your calendars and make sure you hit that little bell icon when you subscribe, because it'll let you know when we're planning to go live. You can check out all of my books over at daroberts.net, or if you want to see some of the unpublished stuff and help shape the future of the DA verse, you can join the Patreon community over at patreon.com/DARobertsAuthor. The support of the patrons really does make a huge difference, and they get short stories that aren't published. They get advance warning when things are going on. We've got a lot of stuff in the works, and you guys can be a big part of that over at the Patreon community. Lurks a lot says chat numbers have doubled since I found you. They've gone up quite a bit. Oh, there's Ranger. Hey, Ranger.
Ranger.
There. He's the show dog.
Harley'd be in my lap if I didn't shut the door. He's not so much as a camera hound as just a lap dog. Well, he thinks he is. He's a 90-pound lap dog. It's funny. Big dogs think they're little dogs, and little dogs think they're big dogs.
Yeah.
DR 45-120 Sharp Rothstein says, greetings from a Wild Hunt fan. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. The newest Wild Hunt is coming out. I'm already planning the next Wild Hunt. All I'm going to tell you right now is the next Wild Hunt will take place underwater.
Nice.
I've already been sharing some stuff around with the guys. The Wild Hunt team is growing. Our roulette says you need to get an email. I don't know how to do that. I am not a big tech guy. If you know how to do that, shoot me an email at that email address right there. And if you can tell me how to set that up, I would be happy to do it. But again, I am not a tech guy. Most of my promotion stuff is done by me, and me fumbling, fumbling through it like a teenager fumbling with his first kiss or first dance. I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to the promotion. That's the part of the job that I'm not good at. But if anybody out there knows anything about promotions and stuff like that, like email lists, please get a hold of me. I would love to have the help. Cameron Buckner is going to be narrating a lot more of my stuff. We've got plans to do a lot of projects together. He's working on the first book of the Apex Predator series right now, and the third book of the Codename Wild Hunt series. So both of those should be coming up projects. Oh, Strange Road says, hit me up, DA. We can help you. Dude, I would love that. I would definitely love that. So yeah, I'll shoot you a message. I appreciate it. Any help any of y'all could offer. But again, this has turned into a 15-minute Ozarks good night. Just like when I was a kid, my mom would say, boys, get your coats. We'd put our coats on, and she'd stand at the door and talk for half an hour while we're sweating inside the house with our coats on. And then she'd get in the car, and we'd all go get in the car, and she'd sit at the end of the porch and talk for another half hour. I guess I learned it the old-fashioned way. It is another Ozarks good night. But again, folks, we thank you guys so much for being here, and we appreciate each and every one of you for helping this channel to continue to grow, and for spending your evenings with us when we talk about cryptids and monsters and all things that go bump in the night. We appreciate you all so very much. Thank you guys from the bottom of your heart. Don't forget to keep Miss Lene, Pat Kennedy, and William Nighthawk in your prayers. They're all having some health issues right now, and we can just keep those folks in your prayers. And if you send a kind word my way, I wouldn't mind it. I've still got a couple of rounds of those spinal shots to go through, and I'm thinking if those turn out the way they're supposed to, it's really going to improve some things for me. We got some projects coming up I don't really want to talk too terribly much about, but it will involve us going to locations and filming. And I think it's going to be something really good for the channel. to bring to y'all and to show on not just the show, but to produce our own documentaries. Miss Lene says she's doing fantastic. Well, just keep her in your prayers because we want her to continue doing fantastic. Lurks a lot says embrace the suck. Funny you should say that. That speaks of Mr. Margolin. Mr. Margolin gets a new code name and a lot of airtime in the new Codename Wild Hunt book. I think you guys are going to enjoy that a lot. So look for that coming out in the next couple of days, according to Amazon. Strange Red says they'd love to help with that as well. Dude, we got to talk. Shoot me a message so I don't forget. Shoot me a message on Facebook and we'll chat about it. Lost Doc there. Folks, again, thank you. No problem.
Again, sorry.
No problem. But again, thank you guys for spending so much time with us. We really enjoy it. We have a great time hanging out with y'all. We love the topics, and I think that shows because when you can enjoy the topic and laugh and have a good time and really bring that part of your personality to these topics, it's not just up here like doing the Walter Cronkite. That's the way it was. We want to bring life to the topic, not just information. And we do that by interacting with y'all, by interacting with each other, and just by sharing our experiences. So guys, thank you for that. Thank you for all your support in the channel. Thank you for your continued support to help this channel grow and to reach a bigger audience. And we are doing that, and it's an amazing thing. So join us Saturday night when we're going to be discussing. We're going to be talking about the famous incident at 8 Canyon and some of the ongoing incidents that are happening in that area. And join us next Wednesday night when we will have special guest MK Davis in the house, and we're going to be discussing the Honey Island Swamp Monster. And at some point, I know we're going to talk about the Patterson-Gimlin footage because there's no way to have MK on the show without talking about the Patterson-Gimlin footage. MK is kind of an expert on the subject, just an absolute talented dude, an amazing guy to have on the show. So it's going to be a great night. So make sure you mark your calendars. Join us on Saturday night. We're going to be talking about 8 Canyon. Join us next Wednesday night when we've got MK on the show. Going to be a great time, folks. Thank you guys for stopping by and spending so much time with us. Make sure to go by darkangelmedical.com. Use the discount code CRYPTID25 for 25% off the best medical kits in the business. And swing by scallywagtactical.com and tell them we sent you. And use the discount code DARoberts10 at checkout for 10% off your entire order. So show those guys some love. Swing by their websites and check out what they got because it's some amazing stuff. There's a reason I use them in my books. Again, thank you folks for spending your time with us. Join us again this coming Saturday and again the next Wednesday and more in the future. But we hope to see you guys then, and we've got more great material to bring to you. So hope you guys have a blessed evening. Thank you guys for spending your 3 hours with us, and I hope each and every one of you have a wonderful evening. Thank you guys. Good night, everybody.
Night.
Night, y'all.
Thank you for joining us. Catch us again Wednesdays and Saturdays on DAX Machina. A special thanks to all our channel members and Patreon supporters. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe.